We
I
could
don't
talk
think
about
I'm
her
getting
boobs all
anything else.
day.
That's the start of this, but
Good.
actually, no, it's not the start of this because I haven't gone to the start of the podcast yet. This is just going to be a black screen while I continue to make this all work. I, so,
I'm
so
just picturing you like behind the wheel of a giant engine and you're just pulling levers and like hitting various buttons.
how
And
did you know?
Little puffs of steam keep shooting out of random
You're
corners.
very lightly testing you're revving the engine lightly.
There's like I'm every once in a while I have to smack a gauge so it goes back to its appropriate reading.
Yeah. Steam is filling the cab.
But yes, now we're on the front page. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to another expertly produced episode of Somehow You Didn't Die on Your Way to Work, a transit safety podcast. I am, of course, the man frantically pulling levers and chains and smacking on things, Joe Zeta. I am joined by other people who are making fun of me. Please continue. Who are you all?
I'm Zach. I'm barely awake, and as we were going to talk about, it is no small miracle that I'm here today because Texas is dying.
Texas is always dying.
I didn't realize
dying
you were in
extra hard
Texas. When you said Eastern Standard Time, I assumed the East Coast, but yeah, Texas makes more sense. I'm very sorry about Flood Cruz. I'm sorry about the sorry about the condition you find yourself in.
All right.
The state is leaderless. Now is the time to move in.
We're going to have to ice the ground in front of Greg Abbott so his wheelchair can get traction. To salt the ground.
I was going to say they're icing the ground in Minnesota right now. Sorry, everyone. Hi, I'm Ray. I'm today's guest.
Ray is a guest. Ray is a friend of ours. Ray makes things on the internet, and I'm friends with her through that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how. Do you want to plug them now, or do you want to plug them in 3 hours?
Whenever is fine.
Okay, we'll plug it all at the.
Yeah, we'll do it at the end. It's tidier.
Cool. So today's topic, because I guess we're putting things at the front of the episode now instead of waiting 45 minutes to get through the news, is the 1950 Chicago streetcar disaster. And it is supposed to look like that, because if this happened normally, then there would be no disaster.
The giant flaming fireball.
Just another day down at the Fireball factory.
And
you can pick up an Atlas Prager beer while you're there.
Absolutely. You need a case of them after any good day at the Fireball factory.
Yeah, the Fireball factory is the fire.
You could call that's what you could call the podcast.
The Fireball factory is 2 streets down from the dick sucking factory. They're connected by a load of laid pipe.
I had mentally compartmentalized the dick sucking factory until you brought it up just now.
It's always present. Every city has one.
Oh, yeah.
Bad part of town.
Depending.
Yeah, who's asking?
But anyways,
dick sucking factory almost burned down in this instance.
Before we can talk about the near total destruction of the dick sucking and Fireball factories, we first must talk about some other total destruction in the news.
Knows.
So as always in this podcast for the last 3 episodes, we have a thing called the news brief, where I am forbidden from talking for more than 10 minutes at a time, because otherwise we will be here all night. So if someone could start a 10-minute timer, please.
I have a timer going and a gun pointed in your general direction.
You don't have a gun, I know that.
That's not true.
He lives in Texas. I'm pretty sure he has a gun.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. So anyways, we're going to go as near as I can make it to clockwise. So we're going to start at the 11 o'clock position. Regulators reject at UPNS merger application updated. Basically, Norfolk Southern Union Pacific's merger is hit a tiny little snag. They basically didn't fill out the paperwork, because why would you need to do that when Donald Trump was rubber stamping everything for Jim Vena, CEO of UP? Essentially, the main things seem to be lack of proper paperwork, especially about who takes over or what happens to the increased ownership share in the Terminal Railway Association of St. Louis, which is something that NS and UP both have shares in. So once they figure that out and some other procedural stuff, they can just apply again in like a couple of months. This apparently was very similar with what happened with Pan Am and it's being bought out by CSX a couple of years ago. this is, for everyone who wants to point and laugh, this is a nothing burger. Don't worry about it. I mean, worry about it because it's bad, but it's like, don't point and laugh. They're going to get through it. Going on next, Florida's Brightline skips second payment on subordinate munis. That's a lot of business speak. Basically, Brightline has a shitload of debt, and their bonds are that they financed, and the junk bonds are going really, 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 really badly for them.
Venture capital strikes again.
Well, it's interesting because Brightline was made by venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm not sure how this is going, but there's a non-zero chance that Brightline goes out of business. There's also a non-zero chance that Amtrak, actually, no, because it's the Donald Trump presidency, but if we survive long enough to get a Democratic leadership and Brightline survives long enough, this may be another auto train situation where basically a failing private service gets absorbed into Amtrak.
How many, not to prolong the news, but how many like private services are there operating presently?
Brightline.
Like Brightline? Just Brightline?
Just Brightline.
Oh, okay.
Just Brightline. Yeah,
I was going to say there can't be very many.
It's a very good service, but also it's losing money constantly because they estimated like a shitload more passenger ridership than would be feasible considering like where they go and who they serve.
And that it's Florida.
Yeah, no, they're doing like bonkers business, but they estimated like double that.
Yeah.
Like when you're really optimistic.
Essentially.
They were a little too optimistic.
Essentially. Right next to that is a picture of a bus that had an oopsie. Apparently,
was that at the can opener bridge?
No, this is in
11'8".
No, this is in Spokane. In Spokane.
Ray, did you know that Spokane has double-decker buses? Because I didn't even know this.
I didn't. Headline. I assumed that was exclusively like a city thing, like because they're for tourists.
Spokane is a city. Spokane double-decker buses are used when there's high traffic, but like you can't do longer buses like bendy buses.
Yeah. Okay.
In any of this was apparently a route that served like the local university in Spokane. I don't know what it is, but what happened was that the bus went off route for reasons unknown and took a header into a bridge that was 12 foot nothing by the look of that sign, which is lower than the bus. And so how many people were injured? 7 hospitalized after the bus's like first 10 feet of its roof were sheared off.
Great work, everyone.
Speaking of
Hit
buses,
the showers.
Speaking of buses, this is a rare case of something that went from a post into a news article.
Yeah, this was fun.
I saw this went viral on what I do love. This article described it as nascent social media site Blue Sky, which, in case you are unfamiliar with Blue Sky, it's basically what happens when everyone got mad when certain groups of people got mad at Elon on Twitter and left and made their own Twitter alternative, but with weirder usernames and probably hookers.
Did the article call it a nascent social media site?
Yes.
Like, is that the actual verbiage? That's really funny.
I'm not sure if it's this one
times.
or another one that's talking about this, but the word nascent I had to do a double take.
At a certain point, it's not nascent anymore. At a certain point, it's just an established social media site.
I guess. But in any event, Best Bus is a bus company that it's like one of these third tier bus companies that like, especially in like big built up areas, it's like the bus company from Kroger or the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
Like that sort of thing. This service was running it was a Best Bus service going from New York City to Washington DC's Union Station. And at some point they had a driver change, and the new driver decided that actually he wanted to go to Vienna, Virginia, and began speeding down the highway recklessly at up to like 70 in a 55 zone and things like that. And kidnapped the passengers, was actively hanging up the phone when passengers would come bring their phones with Best Bus customer support on it to be like, stop the bus.
And the customer support was trying to tell him, yeah, no, you're not supposed to be going that way. And he just hang up. Or he told all the passengers at one point, no, you got on the wrong bus.
Yeah. And then eventually they get to Vienna Virginia, and he's actively flipping them off while they unload their luggage, and then just speeds off in the bus. I don't know what's going on in his life, but I hope it's better. or worse. That's up to him. Uh,
It seems like
anyway,
he's not in control of it, so.
no. Anyways, below this, the two images here are together. So CPKC, which for the uninitiated is Canadian Pacific Kansas City, and Norfolk Southern have both put in some new locomotive orders from Progress Rail and Wabtec. Wabtec being the current owners of what used to be General Electric's railway division. Um, Basically, what this really is like is that Wabtec and EMD and Progress Rail, who now owns EMD, basically have had almost no domestic orders for locomotives in like almost a decade and are really, really hard up for business. And I have to assume that some Lyndon Johnson-esque threatening went on here to get NS to pony up, because NS has been doing a lot of it. The term is AC44C6M, which is taking a lot of their older locomotives and rebuilding them into newer ones, but keeping the frames so they don't have to be emissions compliant with modern emissions regulations. And I'm assuming that Wabtec was like, we won't do this anymore if you don't buy some new ones. Or Norfolk Southern's power desk is that inept. And I wrote an article about this on trains.com a couple of years ago. They might be. And just basically they're buying 40 ES44 AC locomotives, which is not a lot. And
Now
then
that's different than the number that I'm looking at presently, which is 100. Oh, I see. I understand now. Never
the
mind.
Facebook post is for Norfolk Southern. CPKC is splitting a 135 unit order between EMD, who is going to
I
make
understand.
SD70 ACE T4s, which are emissions compliant locomotives, and the ET44 AC from Wabtec, which is a slightly different variation of the ES44 series. This is all a bunch of inside baseball for train nerds, but basically, holy shit, someone's buying a new engine. This has never happened before. Because
Not since Katy Perry was on the charts, anyway.
No, it's really funny. Speaking of really funny, this center picture. This is on the Portland. This is on the Portland and Western. It's a Genesee and Wyoming short line that is made out of a bunch of ex Southern Pacific branch lines in the middle of Oregon. This is what's known as their Toledo hauler. It runs from Albany, Oregon, down to Toledo, Oregon, which is like, it's basically a timber industry train. And because this is a bunch of ancient SP branches, these bridges were built in probably the 30s. They're wood piling trestles, and they've just started collapsing over the last couple of years because they're fucking ancient, and we know that Little Orange doesn't like spending money. So
they absolutely do not.
So this one seems to have collapsed under the weight of a road slug. And if it sounds like I know way more about this than I should, I went out to foam the Portland and Western a couple of years ago and I can talk about that at some other point, but I'm still in their Facebook group, so I've learned so much, which I would like to point this out, Zach, because this is the most Genesee and Wyoming thing I've ever heard. This is road slug number 102, okay? It is paired with locomotive 3002 permanently. Okay?
Okay. You got
originally
17 seconds.
Well, we're going to go over. Originally, this was...
You didn't even try.
Originally, this was road slug 101. And it was paired with 3002 because 101 and 3002 worked better than 3000... worked together well, and 3001 and 102 worked together. Okay, are you with me?
No.
Confusing, but go on.
The head of mechanical engineering for the Portland and Western looked at this and his OCD started tripping so hard he had the slugs renumbered to match. Like, he flipped the numbers around.
Okay, I can't really blame him. I think I probably would.
I have heard dumber reasons for renumbering.
Yeah, this one's...
I have no CD. This doesn't bother me in the in fact, I like it that way. It's funnier.
There is a transit agency that renumbered its locomotives so that it vaguely matched the look and the number of a model train that he got for his son.
Oh, that's really dumb. Yeah.
That's bad. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I like that. I would do that. Anyways, I'm sorry we've gone over time. I'm going to be very quick. We got two more. Yakima Trolley gets operating agreement. Future remains unclear. TLDR, Yakima Valley Trolley got approval to run the line for the next 5 years. However, City of Yakima is doing major road work on the road that the trolley line runs down. So, well, they have to because the road's disintegrating. So that's up in the air. Also, Yakima Valley Trolley is apparently very keen of the fact that they're like the last interurban because they run to the next town over.
Hell yeah.
Currently, they are not doing that because there's a diamond with like Union Pacific in the middle of town that has been ripped out to let Union Pacific do track work, and they're not sure if it's going to get put back in.
Oh,
So they
I wouldn't be hopeful about that.
They want that to be put back in. I think there's work for it to be put back in, but between that, basically, it's like what happens in the next 5 years. And the reasoning the Yakima City Council gave for letting this go on is they would be maintaining the car barn and everything anyways if there was no trolley, so they might as well just let them do that anyways. And then finally, sad news, Cleveland is losing an Art Deco icon because Greyhound is moving out of the bus terminal downtown.
You guys too?
Yeah, this is because
Dallas is losing
is because the Germans are the worst. Greyhound was bought by Flixbus, which is like Ryanair if it was with buses, and also worse. And so Flixbus realized they had a bunch of really valuable center city real estate and started selling them. And so they've built a much shittier looking, like it's a concrete shoebox at the edge of town, at the edge of Cleveland, out by the airport that they're now going to stop at. And Greyhound passenger, and so they sold the building, beautiful Art Deco structure, to what's it called? To Playhouse Square, the local theater complex, because Cleveland inexplicably has the second largest theater complex in the country outside of New York City.
Oh,
and so this is going to be a bourgeois banquet hall, and or right now they're just going to use it for valet parking and tour buses, but it will eventually become another like arts center with the place. And I say bourgeois, that's not exactly a bad thing. The arts are important, but it's just
no,
like,
I was going to say that's not at least they're not tearing it down.
No, they're not tearing it down, but it's definitely not going to be as accessible to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
you get to keep yours.
What?
Is yours going away? I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah. Take a look at the Dallas Greyhound terminal and look at what we're losing. The timeline is unclear, but it's going kaput.
Yeah, that is the one thing. Is I can't talk and type. Oh my god. Is that Playhouse Square is probably going to keep this. That's
nice.
A gorgeous terminal. Oh wow. But yeah, Dallas is Playhouse Square is probably going to keep this. They just have to like do something with it. I don't think they figured out yet. Personally, and I'm not going to place money on this like I did with the William Lake Erie thing, I think it'll end up being another black box theater, because they like for like small play stuff, because currently there only one exists in like the basement of another theater. So who knows? Or it'll be like a non-theater event hall. But
so quick question for Zach, actually, not to derail further, but if Greyhound is moving out of Dallas, what do you guys have left? Like, my understanding is that primarily the public transit in Texas and the Dallas area specifically was bus based.
There actually is a fair bit of rail service out there.
Oh, is there?
So
Dallas, he's run most of them.
Yeah. Dallas gets Amtrak 21 and 22, the Texas Eagle, one each way each day. Nearby Fort Worth gets the Heartland Flyer that goes up to Oklahoma City,
and the Sunset Limited.
Yeah. When they tie it into the Eagle,
yeah.
Let me think. We do have basically regional commuter lines. We've got three heavy rail, or what they call heavy rail commuter lines. But by anybody else's standards, it's just commuter rail, and a fairly expansive light rail system that doesn't go to the greatest places as far as community needs, but it's 93 miles of light rail, so you can't complain too much.
Oh, that's not that bad, actually.
It's fantastic to look at. And then don't forget, there's also the free Heritage Trolley that actually acts as a connector for DART.
Oh yeah, that's a functioning commuter service with century-old streetcars. It is that is pretty cool, even if I don't like the management.
I know,
and it's free?
Yes.
Yeah. I know a dude who crashed one of them.
Hi. I've crashed several of them.
Minor correction, not one.
Oh yeah.
He
Oh
crashed one into another.
yeah.
That counts
Did
as
that.
two.
Hit several cars with them. People love to just like pull right out in front of one and stop to make a left turn or something.
Don't worry, you did a cab. You're all fine. You hit a cop car with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Still my finest moment. I was a cab before it was cool.
Totally intentional.
And
Okay, sorry. I
No,
don't.
no,
I've
no,
only been to Texas once, and I did not go to Dallas.
we
so.
are okay. So you say we're going off track, but the next news items we can't.
Oh God, I forgot we weren't done with the
Really?
news.
We can't go off track because there's so much off track left to go. So if we go to the next slide, oh no, some bad things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you guys know about Thailand?
My parents went there once when I was
It's-
very young.
It's a
So-
land of ties.
Okay, so
Wrong
we don't-
answer. Loud
we don't-
incorrect buzzer.
So we don't know anything about Thailand.
What it's better than the other incorrect buzzer I could have gotten, which for the longest time the only thing I knew about Thailand was from a really shitty guy that used to have a web page called the best website on the internet. And he had a Thailand experience and it would 100% not fly today.
Okay, that's
Excellent.
yeah.
And we'll
So,
leave that to the imagination.
Yeah. So basically, this is what this image is about. On the 14th of January, 2026, this train up here, which is a Daewoo built narrow gauge diesel multiple unit for the Thai Railways, was operating a service on the Northeast Railway line going from Bangkok to, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Ubon Ratchathani province, which is on the border with Laos. Okay, it was traveling through a rural part of Thailand, I guess, like in the middle of its journey, and it was passing underneath this crane, the crane at the top, top left, and the crane was building a giant viaduct for the to be built high-speed railway line that the Chinese are helping fund with the Thai government, that is basically going to help speed up the Thai railway system. As the train passed underneath, the crane operator heard cracking concrete and then felt the crane shift. And then, as you can see in the bottom left, the crane collapsed onto the train, as you can see in the bottom right.
The worst timing.
The worst timing possible. This is Thai innovation, having an accident that no one has ever done before.
Unprecedented.
Because
Now, was it because of the train passing underneath?
No.
Do we know?
No,
It was just
not-
incredibly poor timing.
incredibly poor timing. Actually, as you can see, if you look at the image of the disaster site, you can see how it starts to get wider pilings, like 3 pilings before, because the train was crossing under the high-speed line at an angle. Literally, if this had been like 10 pilings back, it wouldn't have happened. It just really bad timing. 30 people right now are dead, either killed by the impact of the crane collision, being crushed by the crane, or from the post-crash fire. Because these trains are air-conditioned, which means that the windows don't open and the doors are powered.
Of
So
course,
it was
yeah.
difficult to escape.
Safety has still not is yet to be invented in Thailand.
Thailand did not have President Richard Nixon, and so they could not invent safety in 1971. Richard Nixon invented safety, as we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And we thank him every
Need a
day.
whole department for it.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, we're Nixon maxing. Like, I keep getting on my fucking Instagram reels, and I want to claw my eyes out. The Nixon Foundation. This is not a bit. The Nixon Foundation is like making 2020s era video
Carpet
edits,
bombing propaganda for him.
and I'm just like, stop it, please.
Are they just trying to like raise his esteem? Like, are they like, now is our time to fix this PR disaster?
It feels
Yeah. Like,
either
hey,
that,
he wasn't worse than Trump, so we
it
can.
feels
He's dead.
it feels like that, but it also feels like maybe their social media manager is just a weird guy who's into Nixon, because this is like fan cams for Richard Nixon.
It takes all sorts. That's all I
Yes.
gotta say.
One of them was for like their merch store, and it featured this guy just going "Nixon now more than ever" into the camera of a cell phone, which no, that was Nixon's campaign slogan, and they're putting it on
Sure.
shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
But it feels like an episode of The Man from the High Tower where you're now in the bad timeline, where like Richard Nixon's slogans
Are those
being
my only? Is it between Donald Trump and Richard Nixon? Are those my only options?
Yes.
I mean, that choice is still easy enough for me.
I want to not live in the Nixonian Khanate, but I don't want to live in whatever we're doing now either.
Yeah. Keep shuffling the timelines. We'll get a good one eventually.
But anyways, now this is bad enough. This accident is bad enough. Almost as bad as Richard Nixon fan cams. But it gets...
Can you put a Richard Nixon fan cam like in?
Oh
No.
no. Okay, no, I'm not gonna say no, but they're all on Instagram, and I don't know how to get them out of Instagram and into this podcast. And also, I don't want to have to find this bit in the edit.
I understand.
So
I'll see if I can get one for you just to have.
I have them. They're in our Discord chat. It's just I don't want to do work that may or may not happen.
Oh my
Just
God.
go look it up on Instagram.
You're like, I'd love to, but I don't want to.
I don't want to give the algorithm the indication that I'm interested in this. It's too late.
Fair point. Yeah, don't go look for them.
Yeah. Anyways, now we have to talk about what there's another fun thing to this, which is that so this whole thing was being built. Like the primary contractor was this company. If you click the next slide button, it's the Italian Thai Development Public Company Limited, Italian Thai Development Company, which is two nations that I associate immediately with high quality.
100%.
Now, if we click... Now, Italian Thai Development has been in the news recently. If we click that next slide button again, for a lot of bad things recently. So in 2025, a highway collapsed that they were building. That was in March. 2 weeks later, in March of 2025, a Bangkok skyscraper that was supposed to be earthquake proof collapsed during an earthquake. And ITD was blamed for this. Then the train disaster happened on the 14th, and then on the 15th, an identical crane and building an elevated highway in Bangkok, in Samut Sakhon province, collapsed in the same way and killed 2. So ITD is currently on the shit list and may or may not be in existence as a company much longer.
I want to see the training logs for these crane operators.
What training logs?
Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to happen.
So that is the news long, except we have to go into breaking news, but in Spanish. And I'm not talking about
Wouldn't
Mexican.
it be Portuguese?
No, this is Spanish. I Googled this. I checked. I made sure. If we go on, so Ultima Hora, which is, now we go on to the next slide. So things are bad in Spain right now. So this happened on January 18th. Okay, so we're recording this on the 24th. So that was last Sunday. Okay. At 7:43 p.m. Central European Time, I got to read the actual notes for this because I wrote everything down. Train 6189, a Freccia Rossa 1000, an ETR 1000 high-speed train operated by open access operator Irio, was traveling from Malaga, which is, a city in Spain. Please insert your own Spanish geography here. Does anyone know Spanish geography?
Nope. Not a lick of it.
Cool. From Malaga to Madrid, Madrid being the capital of Spain, right? Yes. And then something happened, and the last couple of cars of the train derailed into the path of an oncoming Renfe Class 120 train being operated by Renfe being the national rail operator, because, of course, this being Europe, the tracks are owned by one company, the trains are owned by another, and operated by another. You know how it is at this point. Renfe was operating this through its high-speed train subsidiary, Alvia, which this is train 2384, which was a Class 120, going from Madrid to a city called Huelva. Huelva?
Oh,
Huelva. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry.
Huelva?
Huelva, that's probably
Maybe.
it.
I don't know.
184 people on board the Renfe train, 289 people and 5 crew members on the Irio train. And, the trains collided. The Irio train seems to have tanked the damage relatively well, at the absolute decimation of the Renfe train, which you can see the damage in the upper left picture, which is just catastrophic.
It's like a combination of, it's like a telescoping crash, but not quite. It's
a telescoping sideswipe, and then the first 2 cars
That's the worst combo. Holy shit.
Renfe train went down a 15-meter ravine.
Oh God.
So as of last night, when I was putting this together, or the night before, 45 people are dead. And I would like to point out, I did actually reach out to Gareth, so consider this analysis down here to be an official statement from friend of the pod, Gareth Dennis, as expert analysis.
It's kosher.
It's kosher. I asked him. He said it was okay to use these. So, because I was actually going to ask him for a statement. But
long and short, it seems like a rail break at just the worst fucking time.
Yeah. Basically, the rail fractured. There was apparently a high-speed crossover relatively near to where the rail broke. So the Irio train either just naturally drifted into the other lane, into the other track, or it was jolted violently in front of it. We're going to have to figure out why, but I'm assuming it's for the same reason that the Hatfield rail crash did, which is that one company owns the trains, one company owns the tracks, never the twain shall mix, and by the way, they're both publicly listed. So, we're gonna have
spending money on maintenance is for socialists.
The Spanish are
railways.
The Spanish are socialist is the problem. They're just not very good at it. Apparently this line has been targeted for like copper wire theft and everything for ages, and other lots of little incidents, because Spain is, having a bad time since the financial crisis.
Yeah.
Anyways, if we click the next slide button, here's a telephoto picture of the full extent of the disaster. You can see how far the Renfe train got before it fell down the hill.
Yeah. I'm glad that I don't have to clean up that mess. That's gonna take a while. Look at all those wires too. You're not getting a crane in there for a while.
Nope. And you might get it down the ravine. But if we go to the next slide, we have another issue, which is that 2 days after the train crash, which that train crash happened in Ademuz, which is somewhere in the middle of Spain, we had another disaster outside of Barcelona. So if we look at the top left photo, we can see a Renfe class 447. Oh, I believe it's an electric multiple unit. This is used in Barcelona commuter train service. Okay?
Looks like Mo from the Wall-E movie.
It does. Hadn't seen that before, but it does. Now, if we go over to the top right photo, we can see what's happened to Mo. Basically,
Mo got a shit wrecked.
Mo's face has been bisected at the horizontal line.
Ooh.
Because what happened, if we go down to the bottom to the bottom right photo. This is roughly the same area in 2009. You can see this retaining wall right here. Heavy rains had swept through Spain over on the 20th and basically caused the retaining wall to collapse and lean over into Gage.
Oh, I see.
Retaining wall, you had one fucking job.
Well, the dirt didn't fall on the tracks.
But it didn't hold it where it was supposed to be.
No. Imagine if the dirt was still there and the retaining wall just laid down on the job.
The retaining wall got tired.
The retaining wall got tired. The dirt was too shit scared to move, so it leaned over at such an angle. It leaned over at such an angle that it basically bifurcated the train down the middle of its like horizontally, killed the driver.
Yeah,
stone fucking dead. Many injured. I think another person may have since died, but I'm not certain. You can see like in this bottom left image exactly like that how bad this was from the other side. It's just like gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened on the 20th, and
this
now
is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and now
I was going to ask, like, is rail transit okay? Like
in Spain, evidently not. If we go to the next slide. So, on the 20th, as well, the same heavy rains caused another train north of Barcelona to hit a rock on the track. This would ordinarily be nothing, but this is now the third train crash in as many days. And then on the 22nd, which was Thursday, this train up here, which is a meter gauge commuter train outside of Cartagena, which I have reliable information is not the city in Colombia, was operating somewhere on the outskirts of Cartagena when a boom lift bucket truck of some description, alternatively described as a crane, so it might be like a basket lift, impeded into the gauge of the train. And it seems like it swept along down the side of it, injuring 6 people. Minor injuries. So this is that Spain has had 4 notable train crashes within the span of 1 week. Across many different gauges in all over the fucking country.
How many disasters
did they
can
piss
we do?
off a
Let's find
witch? Like, what happened?
The train drivers union were advocating for an all country strike just to be like, what the fuck is going on? I can't honestly blame them.
Take a strike day, reset, get your thoughts together. Let's try this again and see if we can do it without fucking it all up.
So we're going to have to figure out exactly what's going on here, but things are bad right now. If someone can translate that into Spanish, I'd be grateful.
No bueno.
No bueno. Speaking of no bueno, we now have to go to our weather consultant, Zach Lybrand, for this special Texas weather news report. If we go to the...
I'm amazed that I have made it here to record today. It is anarchy in the streets. My mother-in-law still wants to drive over to her daughter's house today because they usually hang out on Saturdays, but one would think that the roads being solid ice would prevent that. But no, my wife was actively arguing with her mom to stay home right now. It's amazing. Texans don't know what to do with snow.
We are in
How
fact
much snow did you get?
It's like a 1/16 of an inch. To be fair, it was raining all night, and then it got below freezing overnight. So there is a shit ton of ice. But
oh, sure, yeah, it's not nothing, but it is.
I can still see the grass in my yard. However,
are they still forecasting 9 inches for you?
That's more north, like up around Oklahoma. That's a couple hours north. Down here, it's a little less. Probably 6 inches or so, but we'll see what happens tonight when the rain starts or when precipitation starts again, and we haven't been above freezing all day.
But if we want to go to the slide with some pictures on it, do you want to explain what these are?
We're doomed. We know this because our groundhog was seen boarding a flight to a beach destination. Ted Cruz was getting on a plane, getting
to Laguna Beach.
Yep. And
California, for those who don't know.
If you weren't in the loop in 2021, Texas got hit by a massive ice storm. The whole state was below freezing for several days, like far below freezing for several days. There was lots of power failures because the power generation plants hadn't been properly winterized and couldn't keep up with demand. There were lots of people left without power for days. I was one of them. I had to go live with my sister-in-law for almost a week. But she had power because she was on the same hospital grid or on the same power grid as a hospital. And notably, while this was going on, Ted Cruz was in Cancun and had to basically be told by his PR guy to get on a fucking plane and go back to Texas because it looks awful that you're posting beach photos while everybody at home is freezing
to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely. Was there like a death toll number on that ice storm? Because people did
I
not
would have
survive.
to look it up, but yes, there was definitely, especially elderly people, didn't fare well with that.
It was bad enough. I remember a WTYP episode about it.
Yeah. I don't think it got a full episode, but I think it got did it? I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember. It was called It Snowed in Texas.
Oh God, I probably blacked that one out.
It was like episode 20 or something. I remember it very clearly, obviously.
That was a rough week and a half for all of us.
But speaking of death, what's this picture on the right?
That would be the H Mart trying to accelerate that. So, oh my God, what night was it? Tuesday?
This
Tuesday
was Wednesday.
Night. Was it Wednesday?
It was either Wednesday or Tuesday because I was reading the book and you were texting me from the H Mart.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of time at work where I couldn't do anything, so I walked over to the H Mart to get some snacks.
You walked half an hour to the H Mart.
I walked a mile to the H Mart. Dude, I had 2 hours worth of time. I had to do something. And I had 2 hours worth of time in a student engineer, so I wasn't doing anything else, and I was getting antsy, so I needed to burn off energy.
Which, by the way, what is H Mart for the uninitiated?
That is a fantastic Korean grocery store. Okay. It's huge. It's neat. I wanted to see what it was all about. But because this storm was coming up, everybody was panic buying, and I waited in line for almost half an hour to buy 2 snacks. And along the way, I was stopped next to this display of space heaters. They're both on top of cardboard boxes, and they were both pointing right at the line of people wrapping around the store. So just for like 10 minutes, when you were in this part of the line, you were just getting roasted.
It probably smelled great.
You know what? There wasn't really a smell over on that part because in that part of the store, it was like dry goods stuff, shelf stable stuff. All the good smelling stuff was on the other end of the store.
I love how so I would like to point something else, Zach, as I'm looking at this more. First of all, there does appear to be 3 space heaters because there's 1, 2, and then
I forgot. Yeah, there's a little boxy guy back there.
And then
let's focus on the big fucking radar dishes of heat.
I am, but also look directly behind the boxy one. Does that appear to be a power strip?
It sure is.
Oh yeah,
they're all plugged into.
Yeah. So H Mart cares for our safety.
I didn't realize H Mart sold heaters. I'm gonna have to look for some.
They just had a section of home goods off on this side of the store.
And I would like to point out that South Korea is the company that thinks if you leave an oscillating fan on all night, you will die.
Yeah.
I have coworkers that believe that, and I have to just keep my mouth shut because it's a cultural thing.
So clearly they expand the fear of death to anything that looks like an oscillating fan.
So, yeah, it's right now in Texas, it's not great. It's not as bad as 2021 because it's cold, but not as cold. We're not getting down into single digits for extended periods of time, and it's not affecting the entire state at once. So I don't think we're going to see a power grid failure again, but that doesn't stop people from panicking.
I'm laughing just because it's been like high single digits, low single digits, and like 10 for like the past week where I live.
Oh yeah, it's right now down here. It's 22 degrees, but that's enough to shut down the state with all the ice because despite the fact that ice is a very regular occurrence out here, we have no infrastructure for taking care of it.
You'd
Like,
think that Greg
you'd
Abbott,
think with hindsight, they'd make that a priority. They'd be like, maybe we should,
well,
it's
you'd
it's.
think that with Greg Abbott being on wheels, that they would have like at least one salt truck.
I mean, okay, so you got to think plow trucks in Texas are just a guy in a lifted F-350 who put a wide shovel on the front of his bumper.
So everybody
That's
does that.
that's the that's the extent of it. No, I'm talking like you went to Home Depot and bought a plastic shovel and zip tied it to your bumper.
Oh no. Okay. Yep.
But the roads are bad enough that while we're recording, 15 minutes ago, I got a text from my boss to myself and everybody else that I was supposed to be working with tomorrow, saying, "Nope, don't come in. We'll text you about Monday when we make that decision."
Yeah, I am supposed to get 6 to 9 inches of snow tomorrow and
Nice.
Monday night. So my job is active. My job is actively saying, don't we might be working from home on Monday. So I would love to see you try and work from home on Monday, Zach. That would be really funny.
I'm gonna get 6,000 hours in the train simulator. That's actually like the Ender's Game simulator. Where
I was actually picturing Thomas Comes to Breakfast, but with
No, I have 2 gen sets right now. Don't bring that shit to my house. If they come to my house, they're leaving in pieces. I'm gonna make sure.
like 143 all over again.
No, I'm gonna do worse than that.
But that concludes the news. I apologize it was a little longer, but when you have
6 minutes.
Look, we had 5 major train accidents in like the span of a week and a half. This is not
That's
Texas almost dying
unprecedented.
again. So yeah,
when most of them made the front page of Wikipedia, you know that you have to talk about them. So I apologize. I didn't put in an intermission slide because I didn't think it would go this long. But if anybody needs to stop and take a pee break, or you just need to stop and not do this for right now, or if you need to go to work or whatever, this is a good stopping point. Come back whenever. We'll still be here because that's how digital files work. For everybody else, let's buckle in and start into the actual slideshow, which we don't have any more slide transitions for. What's Chicago? That's where we need to start with this. What is Chicago?
So that's why I'm here. Chicago is like the fantasy world builder's perfect idea of like a trade hub. Like if it were a city in an MMO, it would be the place you would buy your first like real set of armor. It is situated perfectly at the mouth of the Chicago River and on the banks of the second largest of the Great Lakes. The only one which is fully within the borders of the United States. And even before the white people showed up, it was actually like it was a center of trade and travel for the native people who lived there. The land itself is actually not particularly great for anything other than it's great for native farming, but not for the sort of industrial scale farming that the Europeans liked to do. So it was great to cover with concrete and rails and sit at the center of transit and trade and sort of spider out all across the country.
Yeah, it's a very big place where a lot of people live. There's massive industry there, even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Just across the state line into Indiana, some of the largest steel plants in the country. There used to be gas. There used to be gas refineries. There still are some. Every single railroad in the United States connects through Chicago.
I was gonna say the ground's got to be good for growing something because there's like just a weed and tangle of rail lines that just grew out of there.
You know what? It is good for growing. It grew the wild onions that the city is named after.
Hey,
The word
you know
Chicago
what?
is
Those are
derived from
delicious. So
the
okay.
word for the wild leek or garlic.
Garlic City. I'm going to start calling it that. See if anyone gets it. But
the home of Wario.
It's also the place where they turned the river backwards because they could.
Well, it was more because we were polluting our fresh water supply with all of the sewage we were dumping into the
Well,
river.
You're not special. Cleveland did that too. And do you know what Cleveland did? They built the intake cribs further and further out to sea.
See, we're an industrious sort of people, so we looked at that and said, well, if the river just went backwards, this wouldn't be a problem.
Then again, if you try and take the Cuyahoga River and make it go backwards, the Cuyahoga River is going to fight you.
I'm fairly certain the Chicago River fought us too, but we dye it green in shame, like every St. Patrick's Day.
And Dave Matthews Band dumped his shit.
Isn't that day coming up?
It's soon. It's soon. I hope maybe we should do an episode on that.
That would be great. I was kind of hoping it was going to be either the PCC car.
It was almost exactly 6 months ago.
Damn it!
Oops.
That's as far away from. That's not coming up. That's as far away as it could possibly
the next
be.
one's coming up.
The next one is coming. That would be a fun joke episode. We have some ideas for joke episodes coming up that you guys will, the audience, will like.
I love being the first, being able to inform people about the Dave Matthews Band incident, which I will not spoil here, since evidently you're going to do an episode on it.
How can you spoil it? It's literally...
I will say, you know how, back in the early days of the internet, we used to celebrate, Talk Like a Pirate Day?
Yeah.
I feel like the Dave Matthews Band has sort of usurped
100%.
Talk Like a Pirate Day as an internet holiday.
It's the one that outlasted all the others.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put that one on the list. Somebody remind me at the end of this. We'll talk about that, but...
I'll remind you. Have me back. It'll be great.
Absolutely. 100%. This is mostly a vehicle to get our friends onto this and talk about it. Every time in the the WTYP server, someone that I know is like, man, I wish they would cover this. I'm like, well, there is another podcast.
The second tier.
The
B-listers are here.
Yeah, we're like the public access podcast.
Oh yeah,
but
and it is publicly accessible because you could be on it.
Yes. So
and that incident is on the list.
Oh, thank
Excellent.
God. Cool. I also added some other ones to the list, Zach. I'll show you them later. But anyways, going on to our next question: what is a streetcar? This is
fucking rad. That's what it is.
It is.
It's a little bug that.
Mode of transportation.
It is a very good mode of transportation.
If you make it without a couple of design flaws that we're going to talk about.
There are
big asterisk.
There are some flaws with streetcars that we'll get into slightly, namely that they do sort of have to run on a fixed route. It is very difficult for them to deviate. But to answer the question, a streetcar is a railway vehicle that runs usually down the middle of a street, acting as a much larger capacity bus.
So my question is, was the center of the street the only option?
No, you could go down the edge of the street. You could go down. A lot of times they were in medians of the street.
New Orleans does that. They have their own right of way, quote unquote, on the St. Charles line, but it's just the median of the roads it runs down.
Yeah, Kenosha, Wisconsin still does that. There's lots of different options, and there will be times when all of them are at use within a couple of blocks of each other, which means you get this absolutely fantastic thing where a streetcar will pull away from a stop that is on the side of the street, cut across 3 lanes of traffic at a 45-degree angle, and enter the median. And just everybody has to play, and it has to play Frogger.
Look at the intersection of McKinney Avenue and Blackburn Street in Dallas for a perfect example of that.
Or like what you were saying with MATA, before MATA instituted their downtown loop, MATA ran down a one-way street bidirectionally.
Yes.
So
is it a situation where it's when you hear the ambulance coming and you just everyone's just sort of pulls over haphazardly and without any kind of organization, where if you see the streetcar coming, you just have to kind of slow down.
Well,
there's no system for that.
There was a double
nobody
yellow
pulls
line.
over.
There was a double yellow line, so people generally didn't get in the streetcar lane, and when it was going in the right direction with the flow of traffic. But yeah, every now and then we'd be going along and somebody would try to use that lane to make a turn, and we were already in the intersection. So somebody's got to move, and you can turn your wheels. So, need you to get the fuck out of the way, please, bud.
Yeah, I drove in Toronto, and the most stressful thing that I experienced there was being in traffic directly behind one trolley, and then the next vehicle behind me was another one, and I'm like,
Hell
man,
yeah.
steel on steel is not going to stop very quickly if something happens.
It's going to sound real nice, too.
What was
I'm
that?
gonna become a
Episode
sandwich.
11? To see what happens when a cop car gets in that situation?
Yep, CR Mata episode, which I would like to point out is one of my favorite episodes that we've done. I love that accident so much, Zach. I think about it all the time. I would also like to point out, for anyone who's wondering, the streetcar in this photo is Shaker Heights Rapid Transit Car 12. This car is operational at the Northern Ohio Railway Museum in lovely Seville, Ohio. You can go see it. You can ride on it. You can even meet me while riding on it because I volunteer at this museum and I took this photograph. Please visit the Northern Ohio Railway Museum because we are only open on certain Saturdays between 10 and 4. We need the visitorship.
If I come out and visit, can you get me some stick time?
Yeah, absolutely. If you tell them that you are a certified motorman, absolutely.
Yeah,
If Zach's behind the wheel, can
like 10 years expired.
I go with?
Yeah, you please do. We should do this. But now we must but we do have to ask a question. So Shaker Rapid Car 12 is very indicative of early streetcars. Well, second generation streetcars. Car 12
Yeah,
was built
that's a
in,
big boy. It's got 2 trucks.
Yeah, it was built in 1914. It still has a lot of things from the earlier streetcars. It is, it is made of metal, but the interior is almost entirely wood. It is the loudest vehicle known to human existence. It's electric, which means that the motors don't make much noise. But congratulations! But try holding a conversation while the air pump is going.
Oh, but do you get the growl when the motors are trying to turn the axles? Because most of these are built with straight cut teeth, not bevel teeth.
Yep.
So you can really hear every single tooth engaging as the motor and the axle turn.
You can also hear the relay solenoids clicking away if you're too close to the front.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that.
It also has an air whistle, so it's nice and loud when they have to blow that. You can also hear the screams of anyone who gets scooped up.
What's the closest airport?
You can also hear the screams of anyone who gets picked up by the trolley dodger catcher up here at the front.
I was going to say, that thing looks like one good gust of wind away from falling down in front and getting crushed.
Yeah, that also looks extremely high for a people catcher.
It catches your ankles. Or your knees, I'm sorry. But, you were asking the nearest airport, Akron-Canton Regional Airport, airport code CAK. Otherwise, you're going to look at Cleveland Hopkins International, IATA code CLE.
For flights.
He's so desperate to get out of Texas right now. He's booking his flight.
I think American and Southwest have
flying.
I think American and Southwest and no, United might have a direct too. But you might even see Ted Cruz. No, you won't.
No, he's going to a beach. No,
Ted Cruz wouldn't be caught dead in Ohio.
His PR guy made him come back. He's already back in Texas.
But
he knew that was going to happen, right? Never mind. We're done with the news. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get hung up on this.
I don't think he booked it knowing that this was coming up, but he should have seen it when it was coming up.
Yeah. So anyways, these are very loud. So basically the thing is, and the seats in this are wicker. The seats in this are wicker, which are kind of comfortable, but you have to imagine that after like a long day of working at the dick sucking factory for like 17 hours in your wool suit with no air conditioning, you have to like try and imagine trying to sit down in this and just be like, this is not going to work.
And specifically with this car, built in 1914, a lot of I would imagine that not a lot of the interior has been replaced. So this is original wicker.
Oh,
this is vintage wicker.
It was probably redone in period, but it's not.
That stuff wore out surprisingly fast.
It's ancient wicker,
which translates to ancient splinters. If you were curious,
We don't get splinters off of this.
Oh, okay,
It's
that's good. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm disparaging a car I haven't sat in.
Yeah, it's actually very nice. I just wish it wasn't so loud, or I wish it had better ventilation because there's no air conditioning in this.
That's what windows are for, don't you know?
We're a summer only museum. The windows only work when the car is moving. We have like a half mile. We have a quarter mile of track. It goes 10 miles an hour, if that.
Oh, that's really
like
sweet.
10
I'm sorry. I'm picturing
Right.
the IRM in my head, obviously.
10
With our-
is.
Let's keep going. We're an hour in.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Which, by the way, there is a version of this car at IRM. They have
Yeah,
one
come
of
to the
them here.
IRM. That's
Come to
that's my
IRM and
museum.
Go to my museum first, and then go to
okay.
IRM. But anyways, continuing on. What is a PCC? We must ask.
God's
Because
perfect streetcar.
God's perfect
Mhm.
streetcar. The PCC stands for President's Conference Committee. President's Conference Committee was exactly what it sounds like, a committee at the conference of all the different streetcar company presidents. It formed out of the American Electric Railway Association meetings in the late 1920s, pictured here on the left, which this is in Cleveland. This is outside Cleveland City Hall. This is like every single streetcar company in the country brought a streetcar to Cleveland to just sort of show them off. Also, fun fact down here, this little doohickey at the bottom of the left is a crane car that I remembered the name of. I swear to God. Was owned by Shaker Heights Rapid Transit, and Northern Ohio Railway Museum has one of them. And it still works. The crane doesn't work, but it still works. We use it as a heavy shunter. It is now bimodal because they mounted a diesel generator on it to run the motors before they had wires. So it's got a Hemi.
That's sick.
But you can see this. This is the like, I think the 1926 convention, and then over here is the 1934 American Transit Association convention, where they were showing off all 4 prototype PCCs. This is really fucking a cool ass photo.
All of them suspiciously streamlined. Like,
Well, I do really like how you can see kind of the thought process of how they designed the bodies of these cars. And you can see a couple of different iterations in the first and the third car in the line, but that second one is probably the closest they got to the production design.
Yes, I definitely didn't write down any of the information about these, but basically,
God damn it.
Listen,
Supposed to be professionals.
Listen, trolley boy, you know as much about these as I do.
This is true.
So I was kind of hoping you would say something now, but I
didn't see this photo before. I had never seen this photo before you sent it to me.
Yes, because again, this is the advantage of volunteering at a trolley museum, is you can text Steve, the head of the communications department, at 9:34 at night and ask him, do we have the photo of the streetcars at the convention, which I was going to put up, and then he'll say yes, email it to you and ask you why you needed it, and then when you tell him, he will just send you the photo of the prototype PCCs in Cleveland. So both of these are courtesy of the Northern Ohio Railway Museum. I am giving them full credit. Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
This is wonderful.
You're a real one. I'll buy you a beer when I come visit.
Steve is a wonderful guy. Steve used to work in television. Now he's fully retired and is doing the trolleys, because that is it. It's carcinization. All old guys become something like this at some point.
Oh.
So
rather than go into podcasting, they,
yeah,
take up post.
So what
at
did
museum.
these become?
So the PC. So to sort of spoil everything, the second car in this line is sort of what the PCC would eventually become. This was it Pullman or St. Louis that built these? Because Brill didn't build the PCC because Brill didn't want to pay royalties on the design. But the PCC was sort of like the HDMI cable of the trolley world, in which anyone could build it if they paid a licensing fee. And so everybody did. These got adapted and sent all over the world to places and to and like adapted in all over the world. Like a lot of the Soviet Tatra trams that everybody thinks of when you think of a Soviet tram were based off of the PCC.
The trams we saw in episode
Two.
2?
Yes. Were actually the tram we saw in episode 2 was not based on the PCC. It was based off of the Tatra tram,
Which was based off the
of the
PCC.
PCC.
So by transitive property.
Yeah, it was a photocopier burned version of the PCC.
Maybe that's why the brakes didn't work.
Yeah, PCCs also made it natively to Europe, most notably in the Netherlands, where I think Den Haag had loads of them. They were obviously much narrower. As we saw with in the Mata episode, Brussels, Belgium, did Frankenstein work to cars from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which basically they took the entire underpinnings and put them in a new body. The PCC is an incredibly versatile streetcar. They were faster, they were quieter, they were nicer to be in, they could hold more people, they were all steel, they were very robust, and they generally just worked. Which is like, no muss, no fuss, just go.
And notably, a lot of the design aspects were updated, sometimes even mid-production run, based on feedback from the cities that bought these, started running them, and then were listening to their passengers. Like,
yeah.
Are you ready to go to the next slide? Because there's one of those features you could see pretty prominently.
Well, yeah, I'm on. Yeah, so we're all on the side with the yellow streetcar right now, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so this yellow streetcar is in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is the streetcar that Kenosha runs around in a circle.
So one of those little design elements that was added onto later cars are the small oval windows above the rectangular windows that are next to the seats. Those are standee windows so that when it was busy and there were people standing in the aisle, they didn't have to hunch over and look out the window and figure out if they were close to their stop.
Yeah, which I would like to point out that the Kenosha streetcar is not busy, because this Kenosha streetcar is, and I mean this nicely, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I noticed that photo in the lower right is completely empty.
The Kenosha streetcar shows up whenever the fuck it chooses to. Nobody was on it. It costs $1. You can only pay in cash. You get off at the metro station, which is next to the police station, which, by the way, look behind the trolley.
I was just noticing.
You can see one of Kenosha's finest fueling his unmarked police car and wondering what the fuck I'm doing.
Is he wearing jorts?
Yes. No, he might not be wearing jorts. He might be wearing like capri shorts or something. Because
tactical shorts.
I was wearing jorts on this day. I remember what I was wearing, and I don't think
that streetcar sees a lot of jorts.
Yes,
like,
Kenosha. 100%. It's in Kenosha. It's seen a shitload of weird people, but the Kenosha streetcar is very bad, and I feel bad for the Kenoshians.
Honestly, I'd be flipping him a 20. I'd be like,
It's not worth it. I stood there. I was walking up to the station as it drove by because it saw that no one was there and just kept on going. And then I was like, oh, it'll be back in like 15 minutes, according to the thing. And it was 45 minutes later when it showed up. It just stopped at the end of I guess the bus terminal is like the next stop down the street. Before this one, it just sat there for half an hour.
I was going to say, driver stopped at the local pub to have a couple.
Driver stopped to take a dump or something. Nobody cares. It's Kenosha. What are you going to do? It's also like a mile. You could just walk there faster.
Ouch.
But
do better, Kenosha.
Just in general, but this is what the PCC is. And this is something else that needs to be pointed out. The PCC is still around. It's not difficult.
There's still a surprising number of them around.
It's not difficult for the PCC to still be around. Russia's tram systems are still using their, photocopier burned examples. one of Brussels' units is in Dallas on MATA. MATA also has some actual PCCs. There are still museum PCCs that are running in San
There are
Francisco.
at
Their
least
historic streetcar line is using
there's at least 3
PCCs.
cities right now still using PCCs as the backbone of the streetcar fleet. San Francisco, Kenosha, and El Paso.
Yeah, the old El Paso streetcar. I forgot about that. Yeah. And then Philadelphia technically has PCCs that they allegedly use. I haven't seen them, but they might. And
Is
then
Boston still using them on
I
the
was
Mattapan line?
I was about to say I think they are. So that's 5.
God.
That's 5 so far. I'm willing to bet that who's it called? New Orleans might have a couple.
New Orleans never got any.
Oh, really? Okay, and then here's a fun one for you.
Well, oh, wait. Hang on. You want to play the technicality game?
What?
There's 2 types of red cars in New Orleans. The newer ones that are the 2000 series or are new construction cars, sort of. They got trucks, I think, from cars in Poland, which I'm pretty sure are Polish or European copies of the Clark B2 trucks that were used underneath PCC cars.
That's fantastic. And then I got a fun one for you before we exit Trolley Autism Corner, which is that at the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum outside of Pittsburgh, they do it is next PTM is next to the county fairgrounds for whatever county it's in. PTM on county fair days runs park and ride shuttles.
Hell yeah.
For the museum. So you can get a PCC to the fair in Pittsburgh. That is transit. It counts. Anyways, we're now going to exit autism corner and continue on to what's the next slide? What? Okay.
Another
We're
autism
not-
I was going to
corner.
say, I'm afraid that the autism corner extends far beyond this,
Yes.
this slide.
I forgot that this was the next slide. Okay. We have to ask, what is the Green Hornet now? Now, the Green Hornet was a TV show that aired in the 1960s. and
all right.
Okay. Actually, the Green Hornet was yet another example of the versatility of the PCC. Chicago Surface Lines started purchasing them in the 1940s after World War II. And because Chicago is a very big city with many people living in it, the standard PCC was not sufficient for them. So they gave the PCC an ass implant. By
They
by
gave that trolley a BBL.
yeah, they gave it a dummy thick ass with blinker doors that kept alerting the transit police. But I'm sorry, that's a sentence that no one has ever said before.
I was about to say that's a new one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no Jesus in that sentence at all. So a couple of things. So it basically it added another 10 feet to the end of the trolley, and
They're
also
fucking huge.
and also a third rear door to a third set of doors, because most PCCs had a front door and then a center door, and it was for loading and unloading, and then the back. The PCCs in
That
Chicago,
speaks to the versatility of the PCC car, was that cities could make modifications like this, and it was still relatively cheap, even with customizations, because that 85% of that car is the same design used everywhere else.
and so there was a and yeah, no, it's incredibly versatile. I believe how they worked in Chicago was that the front and rearmost doors were unloading doors, and then the center door was the loading door, because the Chicago streetcar system had conductors still. And the conductors took tickets at the center to prevent crowds from forming. Interestingly, most operations wanted to get rid of conductors because that's an additional expense that nobody needs, right? How did they get around this? Well, you would obviously have the driver take the tickets at each stop like you would on a bus. But this is Chicago, you know, something something hive of scum and villainy. The unions for the conductors are powerful enough that they can that they can say no, no, no. So if you'll notice the picture on the bottom right of a very
Who is that strange jorts wearing man?
of a very loud man in jorts. You will notice that he is holding in both hands. You can't see the other hand, but there are control sticks like on a helicopter almost. And that is because the Green Hornets were designed with dual hand controls to keep because PCCs usually have foot pedals, and they were designed explicitly with dual hand controls that run an infinitely variable like ratcheting thing on the floor to control the motor and brakes so that the driver could never be hands-free enough to take tickets.
That's brilliant. That's such a Chicago solution. They're like, oh well, you know, he can't take tickets. You know, he's got to pilot the fucking Ava.
Yes, essentially. This means that because obviously the person in that photograph is me, that I have driven a PCC, and I have driven a PCC unlike any other PCC as my only PCC driving experience, because the Green Hornets, 600 of them were built. Only one survives.
Mhm.
Car 4391, a Pullman built example of the PCCs, exists to this day at the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois. I got the opportunity to drive it. I'm very grateful that I did. There is absolutely no other car that drives like this. Like there is no other streetcar that has hand controls like this, or at least PCCs. This was a Chicago only thing.
Also, the PCCs in Chicago are so wide. They are wider as well than your typical PCC model. So much so that the example at the IRM 4391 is offset slightly. The trucks are, it is not, the body is not centered over the rails because the cars were too wide to pass one another, going opposite directions. So they needed to be offset so as not to bump into each other.
That's amazing.
I wonder how they found that out.
I think you could pencil that one out if you know your track.
If you use your imagination, I'm sure you can envision.
Yeah. But another thing that we need to note just before we go on is that because it was the 1940s, people who did pranks often found it fun to do, like, people just did stupid shit back then. So like hanging out the windows and you know, throwing things and trying to jump out of the streetcar and things like that. So all of the windows have bars on them. This is called foreshadowing. It is impossible to get out of most of the windows in these.
Dallas could have used some of that because when my grandpa wanted to be late to school, he would reach out the back window and pull the pole.
That's which, speaking of that, I would like to point out, you can see here the back window of the PCC.
I was noticing they're both open.
Well, yes, but one of them has a bar in the middle of it and the other one doesn't. That's intentional. Because they realize that you might need to exit the streetcar through the back window. So one of them is unbarred.
At that point, well, never mind.
Look, and then also something else to note, because this is the United States where traffic drives on the right, the streetcar only has, and they don't have center, they don't have like center median running where you would exit on the left of the car. The doors are only on the right side of the streetcar. Only on the right.
Spit you out right in the fucking traffic. Good luck, everybody.
No, actually, they had what's called safety islands.
Yeah, they did have that.
Or they would be running on like a street that you could just step out onto the sidewalk. But only right side doors. This is, again, foreshadowing.
Yeah, foreshadowing is a literary device.
Yes. So if we go on to the next slide,
hold up. See, one of these things is not like the other.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Feeling kind of funky.
We're talking. So, of course, we are talking about the Chicago Transit Authority. which is a great band that later had to change its
God damn
name,
it.
which had to change. No, Ray, do you realize this upper left?
Yes, it is the
Yeah,
logo for the band before they were forced to change
cha-
their name to just Chicago.
yes. Um, but CTA is the Chicago Transit Authority, which was formed in 1947 out of an amalgamation of the Chicago Rapid Transit Company and the Chicago Surface Lines, which were respectively the company that ran the trains on the loop and the company that ran the streetcars. Because in case you ever get time traveled back to the 30s or something, municipal transit agencies were not really a thing, and it was all private companies who hated each other. So in 1952, the CTA also bought the remains of the Chicago Motor Coach Company and folded that in, but that's less relevant. The logo that you see on the center of the screen is what the CTA's logo was in the 50s from its start. So now we have to go on to the next slide, which is this is just talking
Good
more about
God.
the streetcar system in Chicago. CSL had an enormous set of streetcar lines that went literally everywhere. You can see them going all the way down to like Lake Calumet in the south and all the way up to like
It's like a line on every other block.
yeah, they went to like Cicero. They went all the way up to, is that like Lake Forest up there? It probably is.
Yeah.
Like just everywhere in town. You could get a streetcar everywhere, and anywhere that you couldn't, the rapid transit system or the Illinois Central's commuter railroads or the Rock Island's commuter railroads or the Milwaukee Roads commuter railroads or any of the any of the other commuter railroads that went into or out of the city could probably take you there as well. So Chicago was a very easy city to get around if you didn't have a car. On the right side of the screen, we have the Wikipedia page for the Chicago Traction Wars, which we don't have time to go into, but I would like to just sort of have one of you two read this.
Zach, go ahead.
There's section 1 is a background. There's a 99-year franchise. There's like 12 sections just to the Chicago Traction Wars.
Well, I was just going to have
The
you
header.
read the header.
Yeah, we're not getting into all of that shit. Oh my God.
I just wanted you to
The
read
Chicago
the header.
Traction Wars was a political conflict which took place in Chicago primarily from the mid-1890s through the early 1910s. It concerned the franchise and ownership of streetcar lines. At the time, it was one of the dominant political issues in the city and was a central issue of several mayoral elections and shaped the tenures of several mayors, particularly those of Carter Harrison IV and Edward Fitzsimmons Dunn.
Which... Yeah, and you can see if you go through these court rulings on 99-year Franchise Act goes in order: 1903 U.S. Circuit Court, 1905 U.S. Supreme Court, 1907 Illinois Supreme Court.
There are
like
4 failed.
Every 2 years, the
plan.
Illinois Supreme Court, the Circuit Court, the Supreme Court, like everybody was hearing stuff. You're like, this shit again?
I like subsequent failed schemes.
That's
that
just,
should,
yeah.
Yeah, there's
that
4 of them in there.
It's so funny.
All right.
But yeah, if we go on to the next slide, we now have to talk about a very specific line in the CSL CTA system, which we are getting into the section with the accident. So you can see on this, this is the blue line in this is CTA line 36, which is
That is huge.
It's gigantic. It's 17 miles one way. Ray, you live in somewhere in this image.
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us how insane this is?
That's huge. It's there's not like really a scale for it. The metro line runs about 50 miles outside the city. I think this is longer. Like,
this is 17 miles. end to end through the densest parts
travel
of
time.
Chicago.
Travel time, I bet, would be longer than the Metro line. 'Cause
Travel time,
Yeah,
on
that's
the
what I mean when I
streets.
say it looks longer. Like, because you're stopping every, couple of blocks. You're stopping,
apparently a motorman on this route would be expected to do it twice in a shift, round trip.
I was just thinking that's the kind of run that I would bid on, because you do 2 trips and you're done.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than like a 3-mile route that I
That's
do
very
100
stimulating,
times.
though. I feel like I'd be exhausted.
Yeah. So the line basically, it was called the State Street line. It started out at up in Devon Avenue and then far north of Chicago, meandered its way down along the lakeshore, plunged right through the heart of the loop, and then continued on a straight shot down State Street until it got to like Michigan Avenue, at which point it sort of went around. This is down into parts of Chicago that nowadays Fox News talks about. And
Is that where Chirac is?
Yeah.
As far as
You're
I
looking
can
right at it.
Yeah. This is a Chirac disaster, but it was pre-Chirac. I would like to point that out. And it eventually makes it down to, I don't even know what part of Chicago it ends in. Like,
what would be pre-Chirac?
That looks like it might be. I don't know. Maybe
would
West
pre-Chirac
Pullman?
be like Shy Ottoman Empire?
Shy Caliphate?
You might be right.
But in any way, this line, especially its southern half, ran through some of the oldest, blackest neighborhoods in Chicago, like Bronzetown and Princeton Park. You might nowadays, parts of this line run through the projects that actually formed the basis for the Chirac mythology, because white flight and everything, and it wasn't even white flight. Black people have been there since the 20s, so
they were put there, intentionally.
they were put there. But it essentially, this is the parts of Chicago that all the highways were built through. If that clears anything up, I-90 and I-94 have a giant interchange near here. I-94 wends its way through here a lot. There's a bunch of railroad lines through here, and a bunch of other things. Specifically, the southern section of the line that we'll be talking about a lot is paralleled almost in its entirety by the Green Line on the CTA. So, but there still is bus service. I believe the number 29 bus goes all the way south down State Street.
And
okay.
If you're not familiar with Chicago and what the Loop is
that's
particularly
probably
at that
transit
time,
disaster.
the Loop is pretty much the central business district. It's called the Loop because it was surrounded. It's a rectangular section of downtown that was bordered by elevated trains at the time.
It still is.
It was, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, the idea is that you can take any of the CTA lines anywhere and end up in the Loop.
Mm-hmm. Lake Street to the north, Van Buren to the south. Where'd I write it down? Wabash Avenue to the east, and Wells Street to the west. And this line we're talking about goes right through the middle of it, and we're going to learn goes right through the middle of it in rush hour.
Goes through the middle of it over drawbridges too, because of the Chicago.
Oh, that's
River.
rad.
But I would like to apologize. It didn't even occur to me that people listening to this might not know what the Loop is. That's on me. I sort of,
it didn't occur to me either. So,
thank you, Zach, for putting that in. That was a. I'm usually so good with informing people of what it is. I'm like, that didn't even occur to me. It's like,
I assume anybody that's gotten this far into the podcast knows what the Loop is, but
it's like the third spice in Old England.
Yes.
It's like everybody knows what this is.
Oh my God.
Everybody knows it, but and that's how you lose information,
yes.
right?
No, thank you, Zach, for being the one person to talk about it. We're gonna go to the.
I got your back, guys. Don't worry.
We're gonna
Listener,
go on to the next.
You and me, solidarity.
We're gonna go on to the next slide. So this is not the streetcar, but this is actually. I was so thrilled when I found this when I found this image. This is car 7100. It is so. the CSL bought PCCs from both St. Louis Car Company and Pullman Standard. The only surviving one at IRM is a Pullman car.
It's actually a St. Louis Car Company one.
No, because St. Louis. I thought Pullman. No, it's in the Pullman numbers. I thought.
It's listed. The builder is listed as the St. Louis Car Company. So take it up with the IRM. We'll have to send an email.
I'll have to look. I'm sorry.
I'm not arguing with those nerds.
No, this might be on me. Basically the Pullman Standard cars got a big block of numbers, and then the St. Louis cars got like 3 different blocks of numbers, 2 of which were shoved in between the Pullman cars.
Ah, okay.
So that's on me. I apologize if I said that then. But the car that specifically had the instance was car 7078. So this is at least a much closer number to the car. This picture was taken in 1958, so the livery is not quite the same. The livery would be closer to the picture of the car we saw at the IRM or if you look at the background of this slideshow, that's the livery we're talking about. I did not really try and match the colors exactly because that's crazy, but also I couldn't get the color picker to figure that out as much because I was going off of like pictures taken in weird lighting conditions. And
we appreciate the work you do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I did actually try. I'm sorry, but
no, you did a great job. I think it looks awesome.
The color picker was having a hell of a time because there was lights and darks and whatever. This is a car. This is a 7000 series St. Louis car going down the 36 line.
Oh hell yeah!
Which is why I was so excited to see this. Imagine in your mind that it's the correct paint scheme, but we do have. But this is what it is. And now I see the next slide is something that I did not put in here.
Yes, these are going to be fairly quick. This is part of, this is an illustration that came from the Chicago Tribune, published on January 12th, 1936, when Chicago Service Lines was putting in the order for these cars and trying to build up interest in them and showing the benefits of them. We're not going to go over the whole thing, but there are 2 very notable portions of this. Let's go to the next slide. If we take a look at the truck there.
Yep.
I have highlighted section number 5 there. It says 2 magnetic rail brakes on each truck minimize the use of the wheel brakes.
Why couldn't we have found this when we were doing the Dnipro-Zerzinsk disaster?
I know. Should we go back and put it in?
We should honestly, maybe for like an episode milestone, we should re-record that one.
I'll keep this image then.
Yeah.
So the bit that I've highlighted in red there is the rail brake. You may have also heard them referred to as track brakes. Basically what it is an electromagnet that constantly has power applied to it and that keeps it up. And when you cut power to that magnet, it drops a block or a series of blocks, the bottom of which has a surface that's made out of the same or a similar high friction composition material as the brakes on a train. And it hits the rail and creates a ton of friction and drags it down. And this is used for very fast and very hard stops in case of an emergency.
You know, I didn't realize until now that the magnetic brake actually had a friction component to it. I thought it just used magnetism.
So I've heard some people say that it uses a magnet to hold down onto the track, but those things are so heavy. If you just,
I thought it worked like a Tyco train where it just like used the magnet to glue itself further to the rail.
It could also be both. I'm not super well versed in these. But I do know.
That sounds much more. What you were saying sounds realer.
That sounds more reasonable to me, but this is way outside my wheelhouse, pun intended. So this emergency brake does not touch the wheels at all.
Doesn't touch the wheel, only touches the rail.
Okay.
So it works on the fact that it has a massive surface area to interact with and create just a ton of friction. And if you use them even at low-ish speeds, they do get very hot very fast. That's not important to this. What is important is that every single vehicle that I have been on that has these, when they are activated, you hear a buzzer that actually is associated with it and goes off while the track brake is active. And it is very audible. That detail is going to become important here in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the next slide. And these are the infamous blinker doors that are on the Green Hornets. So this is one of those things that make the PCC not so great, because blinker doors are a fairly common design, not just to the Green Hornets.
They're so narrow, too.
They are. So arm A moves in arc B, while revolving mechanism C turns the door inward and aside so that its path follows a concave curve labeled with D. The doors in operation occupy shaded floor space EE, and I have highlighted those sections in red.
So
Wait,
rather
you
than folding
highlighted that?
outwards,
Yeah.
these
Holy
fold
shit,
inwards.
dude.
Oh, that looks good.
Well, thank you.
I assumed it was part of the diagram.
Nope. That slide 21 is how I found it, but I went through and cut these out and kind of highlighted the important bits.
Holy shit, Zach.
But I was up till 3 doing this stuff. The big thing to note is that these doors have to have space inside the car available to them to open.
They do not fold out. They don't break the profile of the car. Like if you were to look at them from above, they don't go out at all.
So each door is made up of 2 sections. Each section has 2 leaves. The outer leaf will just make a quick turn and kind of fold up against the wall right behind it. But the 2 middle leaves then follow the outer leaves, but have to swing in a little bit more to fold up against the outer leaves. And when they're open, they're folded and sort of out of the way against the wall of the car, leaving a door open for passengers to go through. If somebody is standing in those spots and exerting pressure on the doors, they will not open. This will be important.
This foreshadowing is a literary device.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So next slide. Now
Let's
you
talk
can
about
see
this
my
death
attempts at adding to a picture versus what Zach did.
Zach's is very elegant, very understated.
I mean,
Joe,
I did
north.
that with the Texas Electric episode. I took a picture of Google Maps and showed that I wasn't running dart trains over the death spot like I thought I had been for years.
Joe with that Times New Roman sheet.
It's not Times New Roman. It's not. It's a different font. Hold on. What?
God damn it.
What did you do?
Hold
I'm
on.
sorry.
No. What font is this? I know what font it is. Playfair. It's Playfair because I figured
Fuck.
it looks like the font they would have used on the trolleys.
Fair.
Shut up.
I should have known it wasn't Times New Roman because that R has that fancy little. He's
Yes.
tapping his foot.
It looks like
It's too exciting.
I've been using Playfair this entire podcast because I figured it looked appropriate. So,
right.
anyways,
Joe writes all of his documents in serif font, by the way.
except for when I feel no, it is always serif fonts. I use Helvetica for emphasis sometimes. Never mind that. Anyways, so this portion of State Street goes underneath what is now Norfolk Southern's Park Manor Yard, which is a massive intermodal facility in the south side of Chicago. At the time, Park Manor Yard, I don't know if it was the same name, it probably is, was under the ownership of the Pennsylvania Railroad. It would later become part of Penn Central and then Conrail and then Norfolk Southern, but I digress. To get underneath the 10 plus tracks of Park Manor Yard, there was an underpass. So as you can see in these images, State Street just sort of dips down directly underneath and then continues through. Does anyone have any questions so far?
No, sir.
Yeah, if it dips down, what happens when it rains?
That is what happens on the next slide. I did not have a photograph of I looked actually for a photograph of this specific viaduct flooding, but this specific underpass flooding, I could not find it. So please accept a photograph of a Chevrolet Cruze doing some mild fording through
Ooh,
a flooded.
that's not a car I would take through water I don't know the
It's
depth of.
it's not that deep. You can see the tops of the things still, but um
This is like a cock the wagon and float situation for
yes.
me.
The well actually, so you say that the the underpass under Park Manor Yard on State Street got up to 3 feet deep in spots when it flooded because the drainage was that inadequate due to its like elderly ass design. Because
Ray, what makes streetcars move?
electricity.
Are you Ray?
I didn't hear Ray.
For the rest of the podcast, I will be taking on the mantle of Joe.
Role of Joe.
I did not hear you say Ray. I'm sorry.
Well, since Joe is cheating off my test, I think it's electricity.
So we have electric motors. Looks like we need a lot of room for people, so it doesn't look like there's room above for electric motors. So I guess we'll have to put them underneath the car. That's going to be an issue
having
here.
an electric motor with a drive shaft through the passenger cabin would be much better.
I think we should make the passengers stand next to the motor. That way they can monitor whether or not things are going well.
Bail the water out as you ford this damn underpass.
But what we're trying to get at is that the electric motors will short out in very shallow water. So, which is bad for a variety of reasons. So what Chicago surface lines did was a practice known as short turning. Which short turning was something which is basically that the streetcar would turn around. Now, as you may or may not have seen in all of the other photos of PCCs, PCCs are usually single-ended cars, which means they can't just back up. So what you have to do is you have to have a turning loop. Now, CSL had these throughout its system for a variety of reasons. Short turns will also be done if it was maybe a quiet day where like nobody in the South Side was using the trolley for some reason, or because they didn't feel like serving black people, I don't know. So they would just turn the trolleys around and send them back uptown without having to go the entire 17 miles of the State Street line. So there was a turnaround point somewhere in this block that exists at the corner of State Street and 63rd. I don't know where. Historic imagery does not tell you where. Google Earth does not tell you where. I'm going based purely off of the addresses given in the book. What the hell is the name of the title?
Oh my
of the
God,
book?
we should have cited this at the beginning. There's a fantastic book on this called The Green Hornet Streetcar Disaster by Craig Allen Cleve. If you want even more nitty-gritty detail than what we're going into, pick up this book. It's worth the read.
Yeah, it's great. It also has pictures of dead people in it, just without.
Oh, yeah. Okay, hang on. I think we ought to put this one in the description too, just so none of you get flashbanged with this bullshit. If you look at it, because I sure corpses. Did.
It was front page news the next day.
Yes, it was. Page 38
in the photo.
It has
gallery.
a picture of dead people.
Yeah, of many dead people, all the dead people in the car. Still, it's wild. They almost don't look. Like
we'll get to how they ended up there.
But anyways, in the book, he gives very specific addresses. The addresses are still there, but the buildings aren't. We'll get into why. There's absolutely nowhere that we can find the actual State Street turning loop. So I've instead, while I was trying to figure out the route of the State Street line through the loop, I found at the intersection of Clark Street and North Boulevard in Chicago, what is very obviously a turning loop for a streetcar. That is still being used by the CTA for buses. So this is what it would have looked like. There was apparently on the State Street line, there was a hut for the supervisor because, because as we'll get into in just a second, turning trolleys at this time was not an easy, nor was it a well thought out endeavor. You basically needed like 2 to 3 dudes to run this, And so a supervisor would basically have to be on scene to tell the streetcar drivers what to do once they got turned around and like manage
And
traffic.
and at the time there were no radio communications between dispatchers and the motormen or conductors of these streetcars.
Because
There
that
was a
costs money.
radio in all of these supervisor huts um, that they would just sit there and relay information. It was a part of normal operations day to day, regardless of any route closures. These
Yeah,
supervisors would just sit here. They usually had a company vehicle, and if they
they
were
did.
usually, because they sometimes might be expected to get out and move a little further up in their section in case of an incident.
I didn't know that, but that's really interesting. Um, but yeah, so all of this sort of comes together on the 25th of May, 1950, which is a Thursday. We're getting into a specific date. Um, Sometime around 2 p.m., an unspecified amount of torrential rainfall began to just rain in Chicago. I want you guys to know I actually did look online for like newspapers that might have said how much rain there was, but because I live in Ohio and my friend and I didn't know any and I'm not paying for like a newspaper.com
Oh,
subscription.
I have a newspaper.com subscription. I didn't realize
Son
that
of a bitch.
I didn't
I
realize that this was an issue. I'm so sorry. I would have
I
brought it with me.
messaged you last night if you had a library card.
Okay,
because
but to be fair, you also sent me a torrential downpour of other messages unrelated to that, so I did
that's
miss it.
Yeah,
that's fair because
yeah.
my research. Okay, the only newspaper that I could find was the Chicago Garfieldian, which is
Oh wow.
What?
which I assume is a local paper for Garfield Heights or something, or wherever like is in Chicago. It was a weekly paper. It published on Thursdays, so they have
The early
no
days of Jim Davis?
they have no weather information in that paper. But on next week's paper, they have a 2-inch high. They have a 2-inch high column that says that two local women were part of the Red Cross effort that went here, and that is literally all the information I could get out of that paper. On the plus side, there's a new Buick dealership being built somewhere in the Garfieldians coverage area with many new cars.
Forget this story. I want to know about the Buick dealership.
I'll see if I can find the link. But yeah, the Garfieldian is a newspaper of all time. It was half ads even then. But anyways, an unspecified amount of torrential rain started after 2 p.m. and began to flood the underpass at 63rd and State. So naturally, the what you called CSL started short turning the State Street line at at uh at this point. Now we're going to talk about something else that's really important to this, which I have pictured with this zooming image of the Kenosha trolley doing 10 miles an hour. This is something that
How long do you have to leave the shutter open to get that much zoom?
a bit. I was bored. I was trying to be artistic. There's only so many photos you can take of the PCC's interior.
I'm really enjoying the Civil War Museum lightly obscured behind the
I hadn't
blurry
even noticed
trees.
that's what it said. That's really funny. This is the only picture out of like 200 that worked. Because I was doing it freehand. But so this is something that we need to sort of address before we get into the meat of the accident, which is that so we've talked about how the PCCs are really nice and really fast and really good. I don't think we've really talked about how fast the PCCs are, which is yes.
Ooh.
Yes. More
They accelerate faster and then reach a higher top speed.
Yes, which so okay, there's two things we have to note here. First of all, after the accident, a police chief in Chicago reported that one day he had been driving to work when a green Hornet had blown past him on the street. He accelerated his car to catch up with it and recorded the speedometer as being at 55 miles an hour. on a 35-mile-an-hour street.
Hell yeah.
We're blazing.
These things are fast. They do not have speedometers on them, and they go like stink. So these cars are much smoother than the older cars too. So it is entirely possible that a motorman could be speeding by quite a lot without really understanding how fast he's going.
Right. The ride is so smooth. He's like, well, if I were going that fast, I'd be rattling. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. The other thing that needs to be noted is that Chicago Surface Lines Chicago Surface Lines allegedly had a fairly good safety focus, but they did have an expectation for motormen to meet their times, which is that they needed to meet the established timetabled stops at each location so that they didn't cause backups and log jams, and the schedules were tight enough that a number of people getting on the trolley at a stop could cause an inexperienced motorman to fall behind.
It was very much a kind of hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We're not going to say out loud, you got to make up some fucking time, but
you got to make your time.
You got to make up some time.
Another fun fact is that because Chicago's traffic laws had been drafted during the invention of the automobile, there was no codified law relegating streetcar speeds, because streetcars at the time were slow, doddering single truck Bernies and things like that. And so there was no legal framework to enforce speed limits on streetcars by the CPD, which meant that you could essentially speed with impunity provided you were driving a trolley. Because
as it should be.
But you have to understand
get out of the way.
You're doing this in mixed traffic in a 40-ton streetcar.
I have sovereign dominion over these rails.
I have sovereign dominion over these rails, local truck, and I took that personally.
So, fun fact, in Texas, there are still no laws enforcing speed limits for streetcars. And that's why I feel like I can safely say that, yes, it is very easy to speed in a PCC car, which is how one quiet night on a weeknight where nobody was out on McKinney Avenue, I accidentally got up to 48.
Oh my God.
Without, I was just kind of half zoned out following the green lights. And then I looked down and the speedometer wasn't kilometers an hour, but I remembered where I was. And the next time I stopped, I did a conversion and realized the danger I had put myself in and everybody else.
See, the fact that it was in kilometers an hour and you had to do the math later and then retroactively realize how badly it fucked up.
Funny enough, it was shortly after that somebody took a label maker and like slapped on 10, 20, 30, and 40 just in seemingly random bits around the speedometer. But that's actually where the conversion points were.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yep. So yeah, streetcars can go really fucking fast if you let them.
And you can't do shit about it, piggies.
No, you can't. So this is sort of the situation we're getting into with the short turns. Is you've got streetcars going at unknown speeds coming towards this intersection, which, is fine. Worst case scenario, they sail into the drink and electrocute everyone. No problem. Actually, no, they would just ground out. You'd have to pull them out and drop the pole and everything. It'd be fine. But obviously there is one man who could stop them from doing this. His name is Charles Cleve, and he looks like Clancy Brown, doesn't he?
A little bit.
So
let's talk about the rules around these short turn switches for just a second.
Yeah, I was going to say you put most of this in here. So do you want to?
Yeah, why not? So at the time, there was no rule about how fast you should approach one of these switches for the short turns. The rule book only said that you should approach it at a speed that allows the motorman to determine that the switch is lined properly for the intended movement. No speed. You could be creeping up on it at 5 miles an hour. You could be doing 20 miles an hour up to it, as long as you could react to that switch possibly being lined in the wrong direction, then it was legal. So we have Charles Climb up here in the right-hand corner, who was a bus operator. He had run his bus route for not I can't remember 9 or 10 hours the morning of this incident. Came on duty around 3:30 in the morning, and then was sent out here to relieve a supervisor who had been operating this switch and short-turning streetcars due to the flooded underpass. Part of the duties of a switch operator and a flagger here is to not only move the switch, but to flag down approaching streetcars and notify them that they are going to be short-turned. So he would stand in the street, wave down a streetcar, tell them, hey, bridge is or the underpass is flooded. You're going to do your little short turn here and go back north. And then he would reach down to the street, and as we can see in this image on the left, he would pull a lever up, and that would move the switch points, and then the car would divert onto the short turn loop and continue on. You were then supposed to let go of the lever, let the switch return to the normal position, and repeat ad nauseum until the underpass had been cleared out. Now,
So you're not supposed to leave that engaged.
that's called plugging it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Don't do that.
Well,
It sounds like, based on that name, that it was normally impossible to leave it engaged unless something was put.
Yeah,
Okay, go on.
that's another
It's
one of those. There
falling asleep
wasn't a
with the
rule
switch.
around it.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a rule around plugging the switch. You weren't supposed to. The procedure mentioned lighting the switch after briefing with every single car that came by, but there wasn't a rule that said you couldn't plug it. However, it was a fairly common practice.
It also
But
meant you didn't have to stand in the middle of the goddamn street all day.
Yes, but you still kind of had to because you had that lever hanging up that you were supposed to divert automobile traffic around. So Charles Klein may have plugged it, which worked well between him and a supervisor that had been operating the switch prior. They diverted 220 streetcars
What was
on
the
this
name
short
of the
turn.
supervisor? I forget.
Paul something.
Okay.
Everybody back then was named Paul, Charles, Joe,
No, it would have been Joseph. No one
Joseph.
would
Yeah.
have been. Yeah.
No Joeys.
Not in this part of the country.
No. You got to go a little further east for that.
Yeah.
Damn it. Nope, I was wrong. Paul Manning was the motorman. I can't find Peter Duggan.
Peter Duggan. Another that I wonder where he came from. I wonder what color his hair was.
You know, there were
My
some
kinfolk.
sly lines about that in the paper, too.
No, absolutely. Ooh, not as many as the conductor, who we'll get into.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Oh man.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, Klein was kind of slacking up on the job a little bit, but it's understandable because he had been on duty since 3:30 in the morning. We're now getting well into the afternoon and the evening. He had a meal break around 9:30 in the morning, and no break since then.
It was now almost 7 p.m.
Yes.
This man is pulling a Japanese work shift.
Hey, that
And has eaten once.
And
that man's gonna have a sick paycheck when this is all said and done.
I would also like to point out that
$15.
I would also like to point out something that I don't think I made clear. It is a heat wave to this week in Chicago. Temperatures are in excess of 80 degrees every day. It got to like 92 earlier today.
Yeah, that
Well,
rain that they got was probably one of those, like,
Yeah.
thunderstorms
turned
that
it
just
into a
bruise up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Charles Klein is standing outside in, at this stage, a wet wool uniform. And he's also wearing something else we should point out. He's also wearing a tan windbreaker or something, the 1950s equivalent of a windbreaker, which makes it that his wife gave him, which makes it look like he might not have been a member of the Chicago Transit Authority staff, because he also didn't have any flags.
It was just him and his hands flagging down streetcars.
Yeah, him and his hands standing in the gauge, being like, "Halt!" Which, in fairness, this worked. 220 times.
It only doesn't have to work once, though.
Yeah, we only have to be lucky once. You only have to be lucky always.
And you'll remember that, there are passengers that are trying to catch these streetcars. They got places to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the nearest stop was almost at the intersection or just beyond it, so it would have been about halfway down the block.
But this guy could be a passenger for all the
Yep.
driver knows.
That
Could have
is
just been some dumbass that didn't realize that he couldn't get on the streetcar there.
Yep,
Mhm.
that is absolutely a thing that could have happened. So,
Well,
do we need to go on the next slide?
With all that setup.
With all that setup, we need to talk about one more thing.
One more setup.
Go to the next slide.
Gasoline.
We have to talk about gasoline. So, gasoline is a fuel that is used to power the war vehicles that drive across the Chicago wasteland as they fight for dominance with the
You can
traction
notice
in the
they're-
traction wars.
They're heavily armed because they're prepared to go into Chirac.
And they have 2 trailers, which is a real thing that happened. Click
Yes.
click the next slide button, please, so that we can be more serious. So what actually is going on is not the war rig from Mad Max Fury Road, but unfortunately, sadly, instead what we're dealing with is a 1950 Mac A model, which is this semi-truck here. Fun fact for all of you semi-truck foamers, the A model was only made between 1950 and 1953. It was a light-duty truck, and almost no information about it exists online. It was operating in the 1950 in this 2-axle configuration, which is somewhat very unusual from what I've been led to believe in my 5 minutes of internet research. And it was owned by Sprout and Davis, a trucking firm based out of the hive of scum and villainy of Whiting, Indiana. Has anyone been to Whiting, Indiana, Ray? Have you been
I
there?
try not to go to Indiana.
Okay.
Oh, but why?
That's fair. It's near Gary. It is not an
That's
enjoyable.
dangerously close to Gary.
It's also near it's also near the Horseshoe Hammond, which is this casino across the state line.
I can say I just noticed that the icon for that on Google Maps is a little dice. It's a little die.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Sprout and Davis was a licensee for the Standard Oil Corporation. They were a distributor of gasoline. So they would load this truck up with 8,000 gallons of leaded gasoline, which there would be 4,000 in one trailer and 4,000 in the second trailer, plus however much gasoline was in the truck's gas tanks, because this is the 1950s. Diesel is not universal yet. We talked about this in in what is officially like our second or third best performing episode, the school bus crash in Kentucky. That gasoline is not a thing you want running a commercial vehicle, but that wasn't determined until almost the 1980s. So
again, safety hadn't been invented yet.
Safety had not been invented yet. I mean, look at this truck
Thanks,
cab.
Tricky Dick.
Look at this truck cab. Nothing in here is going to save you. This is like plate glass.
No crumple zone. Just
no crumple zone. The door's an inch thick. There's no emissions control either.
I do like the fuel tanks just hanging out right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least they're not under the cab or anything like that. Or you're not sitting on them.
Oh,
no, but if you sneeze on them
by
wrong.
8%.
Yeah. But so the truck left the Sprout and Davis facility in Whiting at some point, and continued across the state line into Illinois. Keep in mind that it says 30 minutes on this. I took this Google Maps screenshot like 2:00 in the morning. And also, I would like to point out that it is 1950. The highways haven't been invented yet. So even though I did click on Google avoid highways, it probably is going to be choked with every single person trying to get into or out of or through Chicago.
That's easily an hour drive, I would say.
So this guy, so the driver of this truck, Mel Wilson, which I was not expecting to see another person named Mel in this podcast ever.
Everybody was named Mel. It was very popular.
But unlike the last Mel we had, this one did nothing wrong. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He lived in Valparaiso. He was 39 years old, had a wife and 4 kids. So just to remember the human toll of this disaster for later. We have to talk about gasoline tankers a little bit more. So in Chicago, because we were still in the phase where gasoline automobiles were a bit of a new emerging technology, in much the same way that electric cars are nowadays, fuel stations were everywhere, and the infrastructure to support them was tanker trucks just running around with wild abandon. So you had like all sorts of shit happening where tanker trucks would get into accidents, sometimes even with streetcars, and gasoline would just pour out of them onto the street, and the fire department would have to come hose it down the storm drain. It was a whole big inconvenience. And so the city of Chicago started implementing certain laws, which is that any Chicago-based gasoline distributor had to have tanks with multiple compartments in them so that if it was breached, it wouldn't just drain the whole thing onto the ground. It also had to be, you had to have a couple of other restrictions, like you couldn't drive them underneath the L tracks. And I think there was... it was mostly the subdivision of tanks and like being unable to drive under the L tracks, but there was nothing there was like very little regulation otherwise. However, and I'm going to say however and do the like ominous ... That only applied to companies based in Chicago. If you were in Indiana, none of that shit mattered. You could do whatever the fuck you wanted. And
I have dominion over this road.
I have dominion over this road because my license plate says IN instead of IL on it. And so...
Well, it could even be IL as long as the car wasn't, or the vehicle wasn't registered in Chicago. But I think it was even the business in Chicago.
The business. But the thing is that most of the oil refineries were in Indiana because Indiana was even less useful for farming than Chicago was along the lake shore. So Chicago grew railroads. Indiana grew industries that would disappear in the 1970s. And so they had a lot of oil refineries. They had a lot of steel mills, that sort of thing. And so this truck was going to some sort of Standard Oil station in Chicago, but it had not yet reached it. And so Mel Wilson is driving his truck down the street, genuinely not doing a single thing wrong. As he goes, at this point, it's around 6:35 in the afternoon, and he is driving his truck in like second gear, which this is something I do want to point out. Apparently on the Model A, the Mac A model, second gear was you couldn't get above 8 miles an hour.
Yep. He had not speeding.
City services had just about gotten the water drained out of the underpass, so he is fording his truck through maybe an inch of water. Like as far as he's concerned, the rainstorm has not affected his day in the slightest. And so that is where we're going to leave Mel for right now, because we have to go on and talk about some other stuff first.
Yeah, so, we got Paul Manning here.
There's other characters in this story.
Paul Manning, a Mississippian transplant into the wild, wild west of Chicago.
Decided he didn't get enough of the war zone being a Navyman in World War II and decided to move to Chirac. And, oh wait, it hadn't happened yet. So he moved to Chicago.
Ottoman Empire.
Shai Caliphate.
Shai Caliphate, that's right. He moves to the Shai Caliphate and becomes a motorman for the CTA.
Well,
worked
actually, he
out
would have
of
moved for the CSL first and then became CTA.
Had he
Right?
been there that long?
Well, CTA is only 3 years old.
Oh man, what a thing to have happen. Third
Yeah,
year into your tenure.
third
Yeah, it
third year.
wasn't.
We'll talk about who's in charge of the
I
CTA at
can't
that
wait. I'm
point.
so excited.
So Paul Manning was a fairly unremarkable motorman. In the 18 months prior to this incident, he had 10 accidents on record, which sounds terrible until you realize that it is possible to have an incident and have it on your record as a public transit employee without doing anything.
Yeah, and
So
like
of those, like if you got T-boned by a drunk driver, that was an incident on your record.
yeah,
But it
eight
came with
of
a note that it was found to not be your
yeah,
fault.
8 of them apparently were not his fault, and the 2 that were his fault were minor incidents on buses.
Yep.
So as far as streetcars
Minor
go,
damage and no injuries or minor injuries?
no injuries.
No injuries. There you go.
He probably just backed into a light post or something. Which,
Yeah.
speaking of damage, look at this streetcar.
Oh,
Look
that
at-
streetcar has seen some shit.
This is apparently what every streetcar in Chicago looked like, and really what it means that we need to go to IRM with a bunch of ball peen hammers
Yeah, we need to start tapping.
and work it over a little bit until we get the appropriate level of like in-service dishevelment.
I like that bottom rim looks like crepe paper. It's just been folded and torn and rusted through so many times.
Somebody
Yeah.
hit that hard.
Yeah, that's like move bitch get out the way sort of level of impact. But
yeah, Paul
so-
Manning hadn't been on duty very long at the time of the incident. Came on duty shortly before 5 p.m.
yeah,
And right after 5, he pulled his car out of the Devon Avenue car barn and began a northbound trip to the loop.
I'm amazed you found this picture. This is incredible. But another thing that we should note is that Paul Manning almost killed his wife with this too, because
Yeah.
he and his wife Mammy, because in the 1950s, a woman could just be a housewife and not do anything else. They would ride the bus together to where the car barn was because they got free transit because he was an employee. At which point, he would go to the car barn, she would go shopping, and if she didn't have any perishables or anything, she would get on the car and sit right behind him as they went through this.
Yeah, wait for him
Which-
to pull the car out of the barn, and then he would watch for her at the same stop every day.
Which to me sounds, riding a rush hour streetcar through the loop just because my lover is on this sounds like a level of devotion that I don't think I could manage. But evidently,
Do I need to go grab Sasha? Because she did this with me going through downtown.
okay, maybe it's a married thing. We should have
And
Sasha-
you see why one of these hosts is married and the other one is single.
Okay, you know what? Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. I didn't come on to this I didn't make this podcast to be attacked like this. But
Sorry, Joe.
Paul almost
and-
killed his wife, we were
Yeah.
saying.
yeah,
On this day, for
She-
some reason, she decided to not get on.
Love
Yeah.
prevailed on
love
this day.
love prevailed in that she didn't want the ice cream to melt or something. Who knows? It's unclear, even though the author of the book did actually, like, I think he interviewed her or he interviewed people who knew her. It's unclear why she didn't go with him. So, whatever. The trolley at this point, it goes down Devon towards whichever one of the streets goes along the lake near the north end of the city, and sort of slowly trundles its way down, picking up passengers as it goes. It gets into the loop. It fights its way through the loop because this is the loop at like 5:30 p.m., which it has to be like insanity.
And it gets packed.
It
That
is
streetcar gets packed.
It is packed to the gills. It just keeps going further and further south into Chicago. The passengers sort of change out at this point. You've got at this stage, the people on board are mostly low income, like I don't want to say lower class, but it's like working people.
Yeah, working
This
class
is
people.
the
It's
work.
also it's also a Friday.
No,
So,
Thursday.
Thursday,
oh, that's right. That's right. It's a Thursday. I apologize.
but Memorial Day weekend is coming up. Everybody's about to get a long weekend. Memorial Day
Um,
weekend was a little more somber at 5 years after World War II, but there were definitely still people who were gearing up for
Yeah.
a 3-day weekend.
People were just doing things. It's always that it's the cross section of life. Like some people were going to visit friends, some were on their way home from work, some were on their way home from volunteer endeavors. Like one passenger was volunteering as a seamstress for a high school play. One woman, I distinctly remember reading this, went to drop off her fur coat in cold storage at a furrier downtown,
I saw that. I
which
didn't
is
know you could
which is a
do
thing that nobody does anymore. But she did, and she was coming back from that. Another person had just bought a hat. All sorts of things were going on. And as we get further and further south, the passenger on this trolley becomes predominantly Black and Eastern European. So Black or Eastern European, I should say. We don't. De-
moving on.
Moving on. Yeah, I can't. No, there's no joke I really feel comfortable making there. But yeah, all the Nope. Just gonna keep on going. But yeah, as you can see here, on the far left, nowadays I-90 and I-90E parallel State Street the entire way. But at the time, it was all State Street all the way. There's still a bus, the number 29 bus in Chicago continues along this route, which I would like to point out. I tried to take a screenshot of this with the normal map layer on, and the route is illustrated in gray, so it didn't show up. I was very mad about that.
Oops.
So it's from the loop to where the Chicago Transit Authority bus stop, right where the accident would have been, in morning rush is about 35 minutes according to Google. I don't know how long it would have taken otherwise, but the car was making its way with traffic. Keep in mind, State Street's a 35-mile-an-hour road, the whole way along it. Stopping at Bronzeville, stopping at other places along the line, and just slowly making its way towards communities like Princeton Park, which State Street ran along one side of. So it's plunging deeper and deeper into the Shaikh Caliphate.
We about to get into the incident because there is a detail that needs to be brought up right before the incident.
Yes, we do. So do I need to go to the next slide first, or do you want to bring it up?
Not quite. Let me find that paragraph again. Okay, so the conductor on the streetcar, who we unfortunately don't know a whole lot about apart from his name and the response afterward, which I'll talk about a bit more, was a black man named William Lindell, who was a newer employee of the CTA, was basically on the extra board and caught this run today. And he was just rolling along, doing his job, making small talk with a passenger that was standing next to his station on the car. And at roughly 6:30, or a little bit after 6:30, as they were moving along down State Street, approaching 63rd, Lindell testified that he heard an odd noise, and that noise was a buzz. And the buzz was the buzz that you hear when you apply the track brakes. And then all hell broke loose.
I actually have another detail from this same incident, which is what I thought you were going with, which is that the guy that Lindell was talking to apparently was supposed to get off at 61st Street. But because there was such good conversation,
he missed his stop.
He missed his stop and just planned to get off at 63rd and walk. If he had actually gotten off, the trolley would have stopped, because the trolley just flew through 61st Street completely without stopping because nobody was at the stop.
Yeah.
So, because keep in mind, this is not like it's a once a half hour trolley. There was a trolley directly in front of it, there was a trolley probably directly behind it, like a couple of blocks behind it on both. So they were moving. This was a rush hour service. There was tight bunching of cars. So
Yep.
the car just went through 61st Street, and it would have stopped otherwise if this guy had wanted to. Although Lindell would later testify that
he didn't recognize the guy that never talked to him before.
Yeah,
that was so fucking weird.
No, his whole conduct after the accident was very weird, and we'll get into that later. But I think that somebody got to him from the CTA.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that. But basically, at what Paul Manning's watch would say is about 6:38 p.m.
33.
6:33. I'm sorry, I can read a clock, right? It's half melted though, in my defense. At 6:33 p.m., the trolley is approaching Charles Cleve, who is, depending on which witness you are talking to, is either standing in the middle of the street waving his is either standing in the middle of the street waving his hands at the trolley that is approaching him increasingly quickly, or is standing off to the side on the street, on the sidewalk, conversing with his supervisor. What was the supervisor's name, Ray?
Oh God, was it? I only remember the incorrect name. It wasn't Paul, right?
No.
Was it Peter?
It was something. It was the Irish guy. It was the Irish guy.
Yeah. I think it was Paul, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
No, it wasn't
Paul Dugan?
It was something Duggan, yes.
Yeah.
He was talking with Duggan, who, and nobody's quite clear why. Essentially there was, so if you can see in this top corner that there's a big building right here. On the other side of the street was mostly occupied by the physical plant of Park Manor Yard, but there was one house owned by a guy named Walter Skanicki, who was sitting on his couch, presumably listening to the radio, and he looked up and he saw Cleve on the streets, on the sidewalk, talking to someone, and then seconds later there was a fireball that sort of like rocked his house. So he was unsure, but so that's sort of where this ambiguity comes from. And a couple of other people who were like less trustworthy due to being like poor immigrants and poor black people, also stated that they had seen him not on the street.
Not at his post.
Not at his post. However, other people say that he was in the street waving it down, including Charles Cleve. So either way, Paul Manning did not, for whatever reason, see Charles Cleve, and he had not been informed that any of the other previous supervisors posts that they were short turning at 63rd Street. So he just kept right on going. I should point out,
the supervisor's name was Peter Duggan. God,
Peter Duggan.
I had to listen to you dance around that while I was away. That was so painful.
It should also be noted that that they were within 15 minutes of reopening trolley service through the underpass because the city public works department had gotten the water almost completely pumped out. So they were so close.
These incidents are literally like a Swiss cheese, like of safety.
That is.
Like,
no, that's literally what it's called. It's the Swiss cheese model.
Yep.
And so Charles Cleve had waved through a car driven by a man named George Hartwig. Was the last George Hartwig was the last trolley driver to make it into the turning loop. At which point, Paul Manning is coming up hot on his tail. Cleve will initially say that he estimated the car was doing 30. The CTA would later use the fact that they employ him to make him reconsider that statement, and he would later say that it was more likely the car was doing 20. I would personally say that this discrepancy comes from the fact that the car was probably slowing down with the emergency brake, because Charles Cleve, because Paul Manning did absolutely see the truck, at some point when it was way too late to do anything about it, see
he saw that switch was lined,
Charles Cleve and the switch, and hit the brakes. It did not work, and the car enters the curve with not enough speed to derail or just blow through the switch, but with enough speed that it swings to the left at 20 or 30 miles an hour and broadsides the cab of Mel Wilson's tanker truck, killing Mel instantly. The anti-climber on the trolley, which is this silver bit right here that you can see on the far left, on the far
pen and
right,
circle it.
on the far right image. Why would you ever make me think about that? I didn't know that. I didn't think of that. You can see it here. You can see it here. The trolley pierced the gas tanks on the cab of the trailer, which caused an immediate fire. The trolley's rear wheels derailed and skated and basically drifted across the street until it was perpendicular to traffic.
He Tokyo drifted that shit.
That painting,
If he hadn't hit the gas truck, it would have been so fucking sick.
Well, he might not have even derailed it at that point. It was probably derailed because of the impact with the truck.
Possibly.
And as that happened, the front end of the trolley at some point basically gouged a 10-inch long hole into the side of the first tanker trailer, which was not a compartmented trailer, which meant that 4,000 gallons of gasoline plus however much was in the truck's fuel tanks started immediately catching on fire.
And spreading along the ground rapidly.
Spreading along the ground, in the rails, in the trolley. Nothing was fireproof. Everything was flammable. You can see this picture at the upper left of the thing. Just the absolute. This is within 10 minutes. The trolley is almost completely engulfed. The tenement building that was directly next door to the turning loop is on fire and in flames already. The gasoline truck is actively on fire and is continuously exploding. I'm assuming that this is the tires popping one after another.
Has to be.
Or the other gas tank maybe went to on the other side of the on the other side of the truck. I don't have the picture of this, but somehow Mel Wilson's lunchbox fell out and just laid delicately on the ground next to the truck at the end of this.
Gosh.
Which is just like that small personal tragedy.
Right.
But inside the streetcar,
ooh,
things are much more dire. So obviously the front of the car is gone. Nobody in the front of the car lives. We don't know exactly how many are in the streetcar, but not a lot of them get out. So this block of text here is the perspective of 14-year-old Beverly Clark. Beverly Clark was a childhood hooligan who would pull the emergency door release for the center doors of the cars to give the conductors a hard time. And in this instant remembered where it was because she had been standing directly across from the doors getting ready to get off at the 63rd Street intersection and pulled the emergency release handle, and her and a small number of passengers near the door tumbled out of the back of the streetcar, along with, I believe, conductor Lindell.
yes.
Well, that would be where he was standing, so that would make sense.
Yeah. So he.
Now, I think it should be noted that Beverly Clark was pinned against those doors
and just barely managed to get back from them enough that.
And managed to snake a hand up through the mass of people pressing against her to pull that emergency release.
Yeah.
I don't know how she got the clarity of mind to do that, but goddamn, good on her for that.
Yeah.
Childhood hooliganism pays off.
Childhood hooliganism pays off. At the same time, Lindell is also frantically working the air levers to try and get the doors open, and he manages it briefly. For a brief moment, all the doors on the trolley, or at least the middle and rear doors, pop open, and some people escape. And then we run into the issue with the blinker doors.
Yeah, two people tried to go through a door at the same time or tried to press their way in and caught the edge of the door and pushed it shut again. And with everybody pressed up against the doors at that point, they were not going to open anymore.
And I think I'm
Lindell
not
was
sure.
screaming at them to back up, just back up. The doors will open if you back up.
And I think at this point is when Beverly pulled the emergency release for the center door, but at the back of the trolley, the doors never came open again because everybody was running away from the fire. And you have to remember, most of the windows have bars across them. So we have a mass of people trying to escape at the back. Now, as I said, one window is barred at the very back of the trolley and the other one isn't. In the calamity that is ensuing, and I want to just make sure everyone's aware of this entire accident is done by like 6:40. It's 6:33. Within under 10 minutes, no one is still alive.
Well, everything's covered in gasoline and on fire. So
yes. Well, no. But what I mean is this is happening incredibly quickly. So somebody breaks the barred window with their shoe. And several thin people manage to escape because with the bar in the window, the gap is about 13 inches big. So small people, mostly women, start tumbling out of the back of the car, their hair starting to singe or actively on fire. Nobody unlatches the unbarred window. Nobody even thinks to do that.
So they're all trying to squeeze out a window that's made smaller by the bar.
Yes. And just at no point does anyone consider to do that. I think 8 people got out of the back of the trolley through the window before the flames just consumed them.
Yes, and several people outside of the car were running up to that one rear window and trying to pull passengers out through the little gap below the bar. And a few times they were successful, but were eventually driven away by the intensity of the fire.
Yeah. Which, just to remind everyone, this is leaded gasoline fumes too. So just everything was.
At least it smells good.
Yeah, but
wait, no, I just realized the implication of that. And that photo we talked about.
On.
No, that doesn't. Never mind.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like the last couple of people who get out actually apparently may or may not have had intervention from God, because a local priest was basically standing at a filling station nearby. I don't know if it was the one that was going to be delivered to. I assume not. But he watched this happen and he couldn't get anywhere near it because it was that bad. He just said, God, please help these people. Because like there was one woman hanging out the back of the trolley, almost dead. She manages to get out and someone pulls her out. She falls out onto the street and he picks her up. He picks up 3 other people, tosses them in his car and drives them to not the nearest hospital, because there was a hospital around the corner, but the hospital that he knew about, which was 2 miles away, and gets them there. No, they get help. They don't die.
Yeah, that's still not great considering.
The woman actually reportedly asked him while in the car, "How do I look, doctor?" And how do I look, father? And he's like, "Don't worry about that. Let's get you some help." Don't worry about that, because she had 3rd-degree burns over her entire body.
Of course, yeah.
So, other people, the medical field in Chicago, it does not come out with this in glory, because most of the victims received help, but the hospital that was nearest was a Catholic hospital. And one passenger in particular, a young black woman whose first name is Kyteria
Cooper, 17 years old.
Kyteria Cooper
denied a treatment at the hospital because she was not Catholic.
I assume it was also because she was not white, but that's left
that
unsaid.
Probably could have been a factor.
But she had actually,
it is 1950.
She had fallen out of the car and broken her shoulder. She went home with no care and ended up basically having lifelong shoulder issues because of that. Also, as we'll get into this in a couple of slides, ambulance chasing lawyers also screwed her family out of a payout. So essentially nothing.
Ugh.
But we'll talk about that to a little bit more in a bit. the fire continued to rage out of control. It's whatever like your personal depiction of hell is. This is it. Screaming fire, choking smoke. Every building on the block, on this side of the block, starts to catch on fire. They will eventually burn down. The tenement building is gone. All the businesses on that side of the street are gone. Over 100 people, like 120 or something, are now homeless. And I want to point out, so we're talking about Chirac, right? The Shai Caliphate is not doing that well. Every building that burned down in 1950 does not get rebuilt. That block is empty and has been empty since May of 1950 because nobody wanted to build anything there. It was horrific. You can see like this photo down here, just like it's black and white and copier burned, but that's what the trolley looked like after the fact. 33 people would die in like undescribable agony that you only get in like the days before fireproofing.
So that bottom left photo, you can see that the doors are sort of splayed out towards the front and the rear of the car.
Oh God,
that
those
was
are the
from
doors. I
those
was
are
wondering
from
what
the-
that was.
the firemen trying to pry them open,
They
and by the time
pulled
they were
them out.
able to do that, this is the photo. Well, no, this isn't the photo, but
Yeah.
the photo that we were talking about that was so bad shows these doors pried apart, but nobody in front of them, and there is literally an 8 deep stack of bodies
That
in
look
front
like,
of the door.
They look like cordwood.
And
They don't even look like people. Like the photographer actually had to ask one of the firemen, "What is that?"
Yo.
And they were like, "It's bodies, Paul." Steve. His
Steve.
name was Steven. Yeah, it's like
Steve
it's bodies,
Lasker.
Steven. Yeah, Stephen Lasker, later Pulitzer Prize winning photographer, major Chicago photographic icon. This was his first big thing. He just followed around the fire department with a speed graphic, taking pictures because he wanted to, and the fire department loved him so much because he took free pictures of them in an age when that was a big thing, that they gave him like his own turnout gear and everything and let him ride with them on every call.
But that photo that Steve Lasker took of the people, the poor people stacked in front of the door, ran on the front page of at least 2 newspapers the next day and was a full page print in Life magazine.
Yeah. It was
1950 was a weird time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was such a massive news event. Oh my God. And to give you an idea, apparently when Motorman Paul Manning's family went to identify the body, he was apparently a big dude. Like, I think like over 200 pounds, which was big for the 1950s.
Oh, that was,
And it was
they'd call you tiny if you were that
height
large.
and muscle.
Height and muscle. And apparently the fire had caused the body to weigh something like 100 to maybe 60 pounds. Because it had
all burned. Oh my God.
Burned and desiccated what was left of him into nothing. And as he had been like pinned behind the control stand of the trolley from how the streetcar deformed, he had basically tried to curl up into a ball on the floor. And so he was like just a nothing.
That's like survival instinct at that point. Like he's not even thinking anymore.
Yeah.
They
identified him
horrifying mental image.
They identified him by his watch.
Jesus.
They identify like the people in this accident. I'm sorry if you've got like a not great stomach on this. Like,
I didn't eat before coming onto this podcast.
It got to the point where the last 2 victims they really struggled to identify because they had identical bridge work. And
yeah,
like they were going
and
off
you're at that point it's just teeth. Like that's the last thing left.
They were going off of rings and shoes, wallets if they survived. Things like apparently one guy got identified within like 10 minutes of the accident because they found his wallet with like his driver's license in it.
Mm-hmm. Another woman was identified because she had a bill in her pocket with her name on it.
A utility bill in her wallet. some things like clothes, things like that, like just exquisite forms of agony. And then also, you have to get into the fact that the 1950s existed before telephones were a universal concept. So anybody who was commuting on the 36 line, who may or may not have been on the car after it, who now had to sort of watch as their tram got canceled out from under them and had to walk home, was assumed dead by their families for a while. So like one guy who took the 36 home every day didn't show up at home, and his family was at the morgue when they got a phone call from home that he had gone out to the club and hadn't gone home until 2 a.m.
He should have been at the club.
He was. He'd gone
That man
clubbing.
was drinking away what he had to walk past.
No, he hadn't even like gotten on the trolley. He'd just gone straight from work to the club like he was a German.
And then he's like, "Man, all these trolleys are delayed or late. What's going
like,
on?"
It's like, Jesus Christ! Everyone.
Why are they all stopped in a row?
What? Oh, you want to know what's really bad? Apparently, within a couple of hours, they got the trolley. Like as soon as the bodies were cleared out,
incredible.
They got the trolley service back in action by like the end of the night. They got the service truck. Zach, you'll know the service truck. They towed car 7078 backwards down the street, like on the ramp. They got back to a barn, and it apparently went by the house of several people who were on the trolley, and their families were just looking at this like nobody could have survived that. Mm-hmm. And several of this was actually people who did survive, but they just towed it down the street in the open, like they're parading a corpse around.
See, and that's amazing to me that by the end of the day, they had it back up and running because like Metra, if there's like a small incident, it's down for the rest of the day, like 8 hours. Like
they're built different.
Well, yeah.
Nobody cares. That's the problem. Like Metra might actually investigate something. This is like we took
the CTA is only 3 years old. They don't give a fuck. There's no precedent for this.
We took 6 photos. No one cares. Some people are dead, but they're Black and Eastern European at the same time, so no one cares. Everyone's name is Desmond Janus. No one gives a shit. Just scrape them off and keep going.
The 1950s were a different time.
Like, to give you an idea, so obviously of how different it is, the first tanker, which we can kind of see here behind the trolley, burned. The second tanker did not burn. How did they dispose of the gasoline? Did they call Sprout and Davis to come haul it away? No.
I'm going to assume they delivered it.
No.
At this point.
They opened up the tap on the trailer and the fire department washed it down the drain.
Yeah, of course.
After this accident, maybe a couple of months later, another incident occurred in which a trolley hit a gasoline tanker. There was no fire this time. The gasoline tanker was then hosed down the drain, which led into a canal. And like later that afternoon, some passing motorist flicked his cigarette out the window.
Of course, yeah.
And caught the river on fire, like the little creek that it ran into.
2 miles of it on fire.
2 miles of it. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared in the slightest.
Life in the old days was truly just whatever.
Well, I think they cared a slight bit. At least they wanted to be looky-loos. Why don't we?
Well, yeah, no. I'm sorry. Nobody cared about like anything like the environment or safety.
Oh yeah.
They removed it from the environment by washing it down the drain.
Richard Nixon invented both safety and environmental preservation because Nixon now more than ever.
Oh my God.
You're saying nobody cared, but
Richard Milhouse Nixon cared. And that's why we voted for him in 1970.
And we'll vote him in again.
Yeah.
Are we just going to vote his head in like it's Futurama?
Drag his corpse into the White House.
I am not a crook, and I love environmentalism. Right. I love Amtrak.
Joe, we've been recording
for 3 hours. We got to keep moving.
I'm so sorry. Next slide. Color images. Holy shit. We have the truck from Sprout.
Blue.
We have the truck from Sprout and Whiting. This is about a week afterwards. We have this photograph, which is in color, which I think is like the next day or 2 days afterwards.
Look at these hats.
There's still a lineman up there working. That's got to
Yeah.
be the next morning.
This is the next day. Trolleys are already going through. You can see the yellow tankers from Sprout and Whiting sitting back there, and just this crowd of people looking at the devastation. And the trolley going by is like the ultimate part of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so
One wrong
everything.
move, and that could be you.
Yeah. This is the CTA ad. Hey, did you die? No, then we'll get you to work. Shut the fuck up. What are you complaining about?
But did you die?
Did you die? No.
No.
Shut up.
It's not just did you die. It's did you die?
People
Yeah.
may have died, but it wasn't you.
And yeah, so now we go on to the next slide. What is I didn't put this picture in the podcast, Zach. What is this one?
Huh. I did because it shows the anti-climber on that streetcar really well.
Oh, here, let me circle it then so that everybody can see it like I did in the other picture.
That anti-climber, for some reason, they had to establish exactly what happened and where the streetcar hit. And,
Yeah, it's this bit.
And what? So there was an investigation, and actually a panel of jurors that were taken out to the site next to the old tenement building. The truck was still sitting there because this was only
2 days later.
Yeah, this was well within a week. One of the jurors noticed an odd imprint in the fuel tank from the truck, and they picked up the fuel tank and kind of looked on it, and then I can't remember. Did they take the fuel tank with them?
No, they picked it up. They flagged down the next trolley.
That's right. They flagged down the next one on the street and then held the fuel tank up to the bumper and went, or to the anti-climber and went, yeah, that's it. That's where it hit.
Yeah. And while passengers and the motormen were looking on.
Yeah, just some random ass car that was in service. They stopped and they're like, hey, can we borrow you for just a moment?
That's incredible. Just imagine being on that trolley. Like, why
Yeah.
are we stopped? You lean out the window.
No one
or
would
you walk up
believe
towards
you.
the front. What the fuck is going on? Oh, Jesus.
No one would believe you is the best part. And then, yeah, it was... The inquiry was also... Oh, and one other fun thing. Firefighting fun fact. Most of the Chicago FD at this point were World War II veterans, so they had learned how to fight oil fires during the Pacific campaign using fog nozzles.
That's applicable. That's applicable knowledge.
So they actually used that in the... in fighting this blaze. So it could have been worse.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what you're saying is it could have been significantly worse.
Yes. The gasoline...
It was really bad. It definitely traumatized a lot of them. The motorman on the streetcar ahead of this, who was Hartwig was in the turning loop, said that he watched for a few seconds and then turned away because he was a veteran and, quote, I had seen enough of that during the war.
Yeah.
End quote.
One of the witnesses at the inquiry was a guy who had been driving the other way down the street just before this happened. He looked over the shoulder of the prosecutor and saw the photo of the bodies stacked up in the trolley and fainted. And even better, they didn't actually make him testify because his friends in the car had said the same thing he would have. So, very funny.
Brutal.
Speaking of that inquiry, let's go on to the next slide. Hey, we've got to talk. We get a surprise mention from the Bud Company.
Yeah.
Before you get into this, Ralph Budd plays such a somewhat pivotal role in the work that I do with my co-writer DJ on our train letters, which I'll plug at the end of the podcast. And when you Google Ralph Budd, this picture comes up. I did not realize that this image is from the inquest after.
I don't know if it is. That was just what I found when I Googled Ralph Budd.
It makes a lot of sense to me because he looks about the right age here and he is sitting in front of a microphone.
It might have been.
It's fantastic. Anyway.
So Ralph Budd was a railroad executive.
Who gets to deliver the slide?
Here, go for it,
Zach,
Joe.
actually. No, Zach. I was just going to say Ralph Budd, distant cousin of Bud Company head of the
Yeah.
actual Bud
The
Company.
Bud car, yeah.
Yeah. Developed the Streamliner just in general.
Yeah, and Ralph Budd had a major hand in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For
more information, never mind.
Ooh.
Go ahead. Sorry, I keep stepping on you.
For more information, talk to Ray after
this podcast.
But yeah, the Pioneer Zephyr in the MSI is because of this man right here, Mr. Bud.
He had just taken on a role as a chairman of the CTA 8 months prior. And to be fair, he was definitely dedicated to improving service to the point that he began making a point of going out and taking various services over various modes and talking to the operators, the motormen, the conductors, the engineers of all of these services that the CTA operated, and was looking for ways to improve, and kind of got started on that when this whole fucking incident was thrown straight into his lap. And he then became pretty much the face of the CTA throughout the entire investigation.
Yeah.
There was an internal investigation. There was a coroner's inquest. There were all of the endless hearings for survivors and family members of the deceased who had court cases with the CTA.
Which, there's a fun fact about that. Ambulance chasers, proto-ambulance chasers, started finding anybody and everybody who was involved in this and handing out cards to people, which was at the time illegal in Chicago. I think it still is, or at least in the state of Illinois. It's like a disbarable offense to like solicit this sort of thing. And people weren't even doing it who were lawyers. They were like runners who were like flagging down people like, hey, tell this guy I sent you, I'll get a commission, that sort of thing. People
they would write their name on the back of the card.
Yeah. And like some lawyers got like accused of doing this after 3 of his cards showed up at people's houses and it's like, I didn't do this, you know, da, 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 da.
Yeah,
One guy,
I don't know who they are.
Yeah, he was such a scumbag anyways. One lawyer actually did get fired because he was a lawyer who was moonlighting as a runner. So he got caught and he lost his job as a result of this. So it's very funny that proto-ambulance chasers came up and became like such a big part of the news coverage over this. Which I also would like to mention one other thing, Zach, because I've just noticed this. You know how we didn't put a picture of William Little in the slides before?
I couldn't. This was the very last thing I did before shutting down today, and I had to do some weird shit just to get the screenshot of this front page. And that was about all I could do for the night.
Okay. I would also like to point out that you have been saying William Lindell, and his name is Liddell. There's no N.
Liddell? Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's Little.
You've been saying Lindell, and I went along with it because I thought I had misspelled it in my notes.
There are so many names.
His name is
bad,
William.
Dude.
Also, we have a picture of George Hartwig, which I didn't know we had. That's neat. George Hartwig, who has definitely seen some shit.
Oh, those eyes are like locked in a
1,000-yard stare.
That is the face, stare, and slicked back haircut of someone who never ever wants to talk about the 1940s ever again. Like just no.
I do want to add, they couldn't have gotten a better picture of William here. Like they found one of him like picking something out of his teeth. Like
I'm sure that the Chicago Daily Sun-Times took what they could get. You have to remember,
also half wonder if it was done on purpose because
certainly they're like, look at this mouth-breathing cretin who can't even conduct a trolley properly.
He was arrested for a while.
I'm sure
for fleeing the scene of the accident.
Yeah, because he left. He actually he left. He went to a friend's house that he wouldn't tell anybody what it was. I think he just got shit scared and sort of like.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
it's a human reaction.
Absolutely.
And a black man in the 50s.
I'm not blaming him.
It's not at all.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Done the same thing.
It was considered very strange at the time. I consider it kind of weird now. it definitely wasn't helped by like the fact that Ralph Budd was exercising every single PR muscle he had to
Oh,
keep this from being
absolutely.
a stain on the CTA. And so like Charles Klein said during the first day of the inquiry, during the CTA's investigation, which was the next morning, like it was probably doing 30 miles an hour, and Ralph Budd just sort of leans in and goes, "Ha! What he actually meant was it was probably doing 20 because the car probably would have derailed completely if it had been doing 30." And just sort of is like staring at him while he's saying it, going like, "Do you want to keep your fucking job?"
Ralph Budd was the spin master. Like,
Yeah,
The speed of the car was subject of great debate. Multiple
mhm.
witnesses estimated the speed to be 30 miles an hour. Ralph Budd insisted that it could not have been doing more than 20 miles an hour, and actually for a little bit was arguing that PCCs couldn't do much faster than that anyway. And then the manufacturer came in and said, no, these cars can do at least 40. And
Nobody's agreeing with him.
yeah,
Everybody's making his job harder.
this ain't the
he's
CB and
definitely in
Q
full on PR mode.
This ain't the CB and Q anymore, Ralphie.
No.
People will tell you to shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. He tried to do so much to protect the CTA, and actually,
Succeeded.
in some regards, did maintain a lot of transparency.
I would say, yeah, he must have been relatively successful. We still have the CTA today. It didn't end them.
Yeah, he definitely. I think he was definitely playing both sides in that he was making his employer look as good as they could while also trying to appease the people who had gotten hurt or who had lost family or who were just generally terrified of of unsafe acts on public transport.
Yeah, like poor what was the guy I messaged you about last night? What was his name? William Niles or something. This guy was a passenger on the trolley. A couple of months later, he finally worked up the nerve to get back on another trolley on the 36 line, directly in front of the accident. Where the accident site had been, his trolley T-boned his car at the intersection. And he was like, "This is a sign from God. I will never ride another trolley again." And he didn't.
Yep.
And in fairness to Ralph Budd and everything, the CTA did take full responsibility for the accident. They did pay out to people for this. The ambulance chasers did screw some people over. Kaiteria Cooper's family only got $2,000 in 1950s money from the lawyer that they signed with because they wouldn't stop getting harassed by them. Which was not a lot of money compared to some of the other payouts. I think Paul Manning, Jesus fuck.
Ooh.
Paul Manning's family got a shitload more money because they sued individually, or some of the other families. No, the woman who got the most was the one who asked the priest if she was still pretty. Because she got over $150,000 in 1950.
Yeah.
Must have been bad.
But the pattern was that everybody who went with the ambulance chasers and settled fast got low payouts. And there was actually enough of those ambulance chasers and words of them getting out that one of the Chicago newspapers published a full-page advisory saying, you do not have to take this to court right now. You have this much time, I believe a year.
Yeah, it was published in association with the Illinois Bar Association.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, like
looking out for the little man.
Yeah, and like Kaiteria Cooper believed for the rest of her life that she got scammed off of this,
totally.
which she did, but like everybody who got payouts from the ambulance chasers got like $1,000, $2,000, as opposed to like real money.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not good. And now we're going to go on to the next slide to ask what we learned, and what we learned is nothing.
That's not true. We don't have doors that fold in anymore.
I mean that have the CTA, like the subway trains, still have those narrow ass doors.
That's a different issue.
But in all seriousness, we learned almost nothing from this because, well, actually, what we learned is that I didn't extend the shape far enough on when I made the shapes for this slide.
You know, I noticed that, but I didn't want to tell you. because
I
I
noticed
like the colors so much.
I noticed it a little bit early. I'm like, God damn it! But what I thought it extended off the side of the screen and it didn't. Whatever. See, this is no CD. I'm fine with this. But what we learned was that basic, like, was there meaningful change? No. The city of
Well,
Chicago attempted to litigate and legislate how gasoline tankers could be operated within city limits,
and
and
and we got some very important change out of that.
nothing.
That's not true. That's not true. They have to have a 5-inch bit of lettering on the bumper that says they carry gasoline.
And they also have to go on prescribed routes from the city, which is just any city street.
Yeah.
Because that would have stopped it.
Yeah,
Seeing all that lettering.
Well, there was actually going to be much more detailed legislation, but one of the city aldermen owned a filling station and didn't want to pay his employees to stay out later at night because because the original plan had been to make the
Like
make
the S trucks come in overnight.
yeah come in at night, which even like some petroleum industry people were like, actually we make faster deliveries at night because nobody's out. But that didn't happen. There were, I believe that the police department did get the opportunity to start enforcing speed limits on trolleys because they clocked like, no, they didn't. I'm sorry. They clocked like 100 streetcars as part of the examinations, and most of them were exceeding the speed limit by at least 10 miles an hour.
The only thing the cops could do was pull their car over in front of the streetcar the next time it stopped, get out, record the number of the streetcar and the badge number of the motorman, and then take off again.
Yeah. They did. So the police couldn't do anything. As we saw in the Green Hornet from IRM, the windows were still barred on the streetcars. Not a great deal of thought was put into evacuation routes at that point. They were more focused on like avoiding the situations that would have required an evacuation. But even then, CTA trolleys continued to collide with tankers, most notably a massive collision between a 4,000-gallon tanker and a trolley that only avoided being a disaster because the tanker was full of milk. The Chicago Tribune headline the next day was, "Imagine if it had been gas." There was and then, did we try and make trolleys safer? No. Why? Because the CTA was, even at that point in 1950, having just bought over 600 Green Hornets, was trying to pare back trolley operations because trolleys, as I said at the beginning of this, are very labor intensive and very scheduling intensive. They run down the middle of the street on fixed guideways that you can't deviate from, you can't route around, you can't ford flooded underpasses. And it requires a lot of maintenance staff to do the overhead lines, to do the track. You have to pay to maintain all of that, as opposed to trolley buses or motor buses, which run on roads, can deviate around stopped vehicles, or in the case of gasoline buses, can just drive completely around to the next block if there's an accident. And so over the 1950s, the CTA began paring back lines more and more until in 1958 or 1959, the streetcar died completely in Chicago. And
Sort of died.
it sort of died. We're going to go on to the next slide now to see what the streetcar became. Which this may seem like what happens when you drove the L a little bit too close to the nuclear pile at the University of Chicago. But actually, this is the Skokie Swift, which is its own breed of crazy, but now known as the Yellow Line, I believe. But in actuality, what happened was that the CTA had been refreshing the elevated fleet at this time, and so they were buying these from the St. Louis Car Company. You might know the St. Louis Car Company as the people who built a lot of the PCCs. They also built cars for other things like the Cleveland Rapid Transit system, which one of those cars survives and works at Northern Ohio Railway Museum. But anyways, St. Louis Car Company was very familiar with both the PCC and these L cars. So what the CTA did was they started mailing the L cars mailing um the streetcars to St. Louis Car, who would then take out all of the internals, all of the wiring, all of the traction motors, and most of everything else, and put them into a newly built rapid transit car body like it's fucking RoboCop.
This
And
Frankenstein's monster.
And so that is what a great number of the L train cars became, was PCCs that had probably already done a couple of million miles, refreshed into high-speed L train cars that would run in the city until the 1980s or the 90s, I think. These things, they got a lot of life out of them. These, and this is the better of the two options, because the original plan was to run the PCCs on the L, but they found out that the different floor heights and versus platform heights just wouldn't work. So instead, we get a weird middle ground. That is your fun fact. If you ever go to IRM and ride them, you are riding on a direct sibling to the Green Dragon, to the Green Hornet.
This image is crazy. It's truly a be not afraid ass situation.
I'm so thrilled that Zach found it. Like, this is absolutely hilarious. It's like, hello, be not afraid. I am just a humble streetcar.
I did not think about it until just now, but I should have included a second photo because one of these ended up in Texas.
Oh.
It ended up in Texas because they were basically rebuilt PCCs. And you know who was running PCCs up until the 2000s? The Tandy Center subway in Fort Worth.
Was one of them at the Tandy Center?
Well, they had one of these cars just sitting next to the barn, and they would yank parts off of it.
Oh my God, I saw that. That's right. I sent that to you once. Oh my God, Ray, the Tandy Center subway is so fucked. You should watch the Mata episode. It's so it's so hilarious. It's just like,
I'll probably listen to that at work today.
What if a department store made a subway system?
Oh, look at this.
It's so fun. But if we go to the next slide, we now have to ask our thing, did you almost die? And I love that it's an ambulance chaser ad on that. It's very on brand. But we hit the next slide button again. We have a photograph here. Ray, why is this photograph on the screen?
So I live very close to a metro station. So close, in fact, that it was actually more cost effective when I was going to school downtown for me to get a parking pass at the train station and commute downtown via the metro. The issue with our metro station is that there one day I'm going to school. It's shitty out, it's raining. It's early in the morning, and parked between my parking lot and the platform I need to be on in order to get on my train downtown is a freight train. And it is not moving, and it has been sitting there for a while. And long enough that there are multiple people milling around on this opposite platform trying to figure out what to do. Because 5 minutes walk down the street is a bridge that we could cross under, but the train is due in 2. So we're all, staring at this freight train, trying to figure out like what are our options here. And I'm going to college. I'm passively suicidal, and I'm failing this class. So I'm like, fuck it. I can't be late again. I get my foot up, just like this gentleman is doing here, onto the step that goes over the couplers, and I'm gonna cross this train. And it occurs to me as I'm hoisting myself up that, this is going to be a multi-step process. This is not a one and done sort of situation.
Nope. You gotta do a shuffle across that and everything.
Yep, because once I get up there is now, however wide the gauges of train that I need to cross in order to get down. And I have not thought this through far enough. I did not do this at the level crossing. I did this at the platform. Oof. So not only am I now shuffling across the pathway, the very narrow walkway here, but I am going to be dismounting into the lowered part of the track. Not on the level crossing where it would where you're supposed to walk. It's all gravel and ballast. and I'm doing this, and I realize now that I can't turn back because somebody has followed me. And there is a gentleman right behind me trying to do the same exact thing that I'm doing, and I'm almost across, and I realize if this train starts moving right now, the situation could get very, very dicey.
Remember, children, if you ever have to cross a freight train like this, pull the glad hands apart to ruin the train crew's day.
No,
also,
don't do that, because there's 90 psi in there. That shit'll hit you in the face, and it fucking hurts. There is a way to do it.
It won't move, though.
No,
you're right.
It won't you won't
move
get
while they
sucked under.
drag your unconscious ass to the other side of the train because you got knocked out when you tried to pull the glad hands apart.
Well, grab a stick or something. I don't fucking know. Just I would say put the handbrake on, but all that'll do is East Palestine and halfway down the track.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Anyway, so I'm crawling across this train, backpack on. There's a guy right behind me, and I'm like, I gotta lead by example here. So I very carefully dismount successfully, and then cross over the barbed wire between the tracks and get on the platform.
Fuck.
They have a fence, don't they? Yeah, it's not barbed. Is it barbed wire?
I think it's it may not have been barbed at the time, but it is now. So that's the memory that I'm supplying. There is a wire fence between the tracks. It's not high. It's just, it's supposed to keep you from doing the exact thing that I am doing presently in this story.
This is nightmare fuel for me.
Yes, I know. It's when Joe was like, "Hey, do you have a story about almost dying on public transit you'd be willing to share?" And I clapped my hands together and rubbed them really fast and said, "Boy, do I."
This is the kind of situation where if I was the engineer and I saw something ahead where I'd have to stop, I would set the brakes hard, but then try to just keep moving slow.
So it could be, yeah. The train could be still moving forward. Yeah.
But maybe whatever's making me stop can get the fuck out of the way, because god damn, I don't want to stop here. Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, I think maybe 2 or 3 more people clambered across before either the rest of them either gave up or I don't know what, went home.
I was waiting for you to say that as you were crossing the other track, the metro train appeared. And you were stuck.
No, I knew consciously at the time I was not into I was not a foamer then, so but I knew how trains worked, and I knew that at the time I needed to make this decision quickly, because if the oncoming metro train started bearing down, there was no way for me to cross the track. So I needed to make this decision within like maybe 30 seconds of having rocked up and seeing what the situation was. So I did give myself enough time. I did not get flattened by the metro train, and in fact, I probably had a little extra time. So I got a lot of confused looks from the people who had actually arrived on the other platform.
You make me think of a specific situation I used to put my trainees through, where we were walking through a yard doing an air test on a train, and we started getting to the point where we were getting too close to a 70-mile-an-hour main line. So I was like, okay,
that one. Yes,
we need to cross over to the other side here. And every now and then it would time out right that we would start to cross over. We're still a safe distance away from the main. And I would see a commuter train coming up, and I would make them stop and look at me. And I would tell them, I want you to tell me when you hear this train coming up. And it was always like, they'd stand there and they would lock eyes with me, and they'd look and they go, oh, I hear it now. And then the fucking train would breeze by 2.5 seconds later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh God.
You got to give yourself time. I have been at that exact same train station and seen kids who think they have enough time to cross in front of the train in order to get to the platform, because all of the parking at this particular station, for the people who are not rich, is on the opposite side of the tracks to you got to cross both tracks in order to get to the loading platform to go downtown. And I have seen kids cut it so fucking close. Like, my heart is in my throat watching these kids run in front of this fucking train.
We all remember the old video of that one lady
getting
God, yeah,
absolutely pasted by an E unit.
Yep. Anyway, I would not do this now. I was I think 19 years old when this happened. So this is well over a decade ago. And I know more about trains now, and I know more about safety. And honestly, I probably don't. I don't want to go to class anyway. So you know what? Fuck it. Don't cross over freight trains, kids. Do not do what I did. But
I would
that is
probably
my
take a
story
picture
about
of that and
yeah.
say, "Hey, professor, here's why I'm late."
Precisely. The issue was that because I was going to school downtown. I had scheduled all of my classes on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday because I was working as well. So I was working Tuesdays, Thursdays, and all like because the classes were bunched up. If I missed that morning class and I did not make it downtown in time, I was much more likely to fuck off and miss all of my classes that day.
Oh boy.
And that's the story of how I somehow didn't die on my way to school.
Hey,
You didn't die on your way to the transit, which is a weird twist that I didn't expect to show up in this show.
I realize how dangerous it could have been now, but at the time I was like, whatever. I'm 19. I'm invincible.
If she dies, she dies.
Oh God, I remember.
Were you
remember
climbing
that
between tanker cars like this picture? Do you remember what I'm gonna
I
engage full foamer right
I
now.
do think it was. I think one of them was a tanker and one of them was something else. But I could be making that up. It's been long enough ago now that I don't recall precisely.
Yeah. I was engaging in full foamer brain when you were saying like the narrow walkway. I'm like, okay, let's see. Gondolas wouldn't do that. Boxcars wouldn't do that. Maybe
I definitely was on like a walkway. So
okay.
The boxcars could. A lot of cars have running boards. But if it was like a single handle going up there, you're definitely on a tank car, and those suck. I hate climbing over those when I know it's safe to do so.
Crawling through the uprights of a covered hopper. Or
I couldn't believe I'm watching this lady do this in flip flops in this picture, and at least I wasn't wearing flip flops at the time.
I noticed that too. Oh, that looks miserable.
Yeah, this must be in like where's that one place in like Kentucky where CSX does this? This must be what it is. But yeah, this is the last slide in the podcast. I don't have an ending slide, so Ray,
Sure.
what are you here to promote?
Yeah, okay, so part of the reason that I'm here is because obviously I live in Illinois, I live in the suburbs, but I went to school in Chicago, and my co-writer lives in Chicago. And we work together on epistolary historical fiction between two trains, one at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago and one at the Illinois Railway Museum out in Union.
It's Pioneer, Zephyr, and Silver Pilot.
Yeah.
I think that all of the people listening to it at this point are aware of the exact names and numbers.
Oh yeah.
So
if you've made it this far, you know.
On what between those two?
So the idea behind it is that if these two trains were pen pals, like kind of what would they talk about? What would they see? It does sort of intersect at like the area of like my love of historical, like local historic like landmarks and stuff like that, and Thomas the Tank Engine. So
which is how how I know Ray.
Yes.
This is mildly fascinating to me. I am not into fan fiction at all, but this is an interesting
Well, it's not
twist.
necessarily fan fiction. It's more a recapping of the history of the two museums through the 60s and 70s, and like how the local landscape would have changed, and sort of the perspective of like the news that was going on at the time, and the acquisitions that both museums were making, and how it's more of a history of the museums than it is of the trains themselves. Although they do like you do get sort of a history of the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, which was the railroad that both trains worked on. We try to incorporate everything that we like about train history and
look, we've been going
and local Chicago history as well.
We've been going for 3 hours and 16 minutes. Do you want to take like a couple of minutes to tell about Herb?
So Herb is he I love this guy. We joke very frequently about the fact that we should write we should write the autobiographies of the two men who are most involved in the preservation of these two trains. Herb Hansen of the IRM and Ralph Budd of the for the Pioneers effort at the MSI. Herb Hansen, I maybe you should tell this story, Joe, because I feel like you know more of the details better than I do.
I know some of the details. Herb Hansen has one of these great stories that you could only have in the 50s and 60s, which is that he was a dry cleaning magnate. He was a laundromat magnate.
Yeah, he had a laundromat called Suds.
He had several laundromats. I don't know the exact specifics of how IRM was formed, other than that it was a bunch of dudes with a trolley in a field.
Yep.
But at some stage, they got big enough that other people started wanting to input trains into the museum that weren't trolleys. Herb at the same time, Herb was one of them, and this was around the time when the E units started getting scrapped on railroads that weren't the Burlington Northern. And so a lot of the early E units that were from the CB&Q Zephyr fleet started going away. At what was it, Piellet Brothers scrapyard?
Yeah, it was.
In
It's. I weirdly, it's actually pronounced Pilot. So Silver Pilot went to Pilot Bros scrapyard.
Pilot Brothers scrapyard, which scrapped a shitload of locomotives that everybody cares about. Like
That's how you say that?
Yeah,
they scrapped like Santa Fe Alfco PAs. They scrapped Burlington stuff, and one of the locomotives was Silver Pilot, CB&Q, later Colorado and Southern 9911A, which Herb bought off of the scrapyard
to go with the train set that he bought. He had also
Yes.
purchased the Train of the Goddesses for $10,000 cash.
Which, fun fact for anyone who wants to ever look for it, the Train of the Gods, the sibling set to the Train of the Goddesses, was sold to Saudi Arabia, and he's allegedly still there.
They still have it somewhere.
It was on satellite as far as recently as like 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, Herb bought the Train of the Goddesses and Silver Pilot, allegedly in quarters.
Yes, because he ran a laundromat.
From his laundromat.
I love him and I hate him.
And
yeah, he's an incredible figure.
Herb is such a controversial figure that the IRM actually unpersoned him.
Yeah, his name, when he is mentioned on the website, his name is invariably spelled wrong.
Because what happened is that the IRM got bigger and bigger as time went on, but the problem is that, like a lot of museums that sort of started with a bunch of guys with an idea, the organizational structure and like rules of law were not written down. This is something that affected my museum too, where like a couple of guys wanted to go in a different direction than everyone else, but because they had been there longer, they got the ability to do that. And Herb, most of this stuff was owned by the museum, but Herb owned Pilot outright.
That was his train because he had bought it.
Yeah. And when it became clear that Pilot, that the IRM wanted to go in a different direction than Herb did, Herb decided that the best course of action was to take his ball and go home. His 6-axle EMD built like 60-ton ball. And IRM did not like that. There was a lawsuit, results unknown, but
well, I mean, the train is still there. The engine and the train are both still there.
Pilot and the Train of the Goddesses are still there, but it is unknown as to how that was finagled. But Herb left the organization. Is there anything I missed, Ray?
No, that's about it. He left the organization and then he went on to patent a gasoline type engine. That was the thing that he wanted to be known for. Was he spent the rest of his life working on this engine he was going to patent. I don't think that ever got off the ground. So his best work really was done at the Illinois Railway Museum.
Yeah.
And if that story interests you or anything in that vein, if you like hearing about the sort of yakety sax ass situations that like preservation, when left to its own devices, can come up with, you can check out my writing and the writing of my co-writer. We work together to work on these letters at pioneerandpilot.com. There's an RSS feed you can subscribe to. We're going to have a forum set up here in about a week, probably by the time this episode goes live. So if you want to like play around on a forum, like old time's sake, you can. And we just got through, we go year by year for the letters. We're in 1977 now, so and updating monthly when we finish those. So
you also do video games.
Oh yeah, and also DJ and I and our friend Ellie, we have a YouTube channel where we weekly roughly stream video games and talk about their literary merits of video games, as well as like design philosophy and stuff like that. You can check us out at Low Art Lyceum on YouTube.
Which I would like to point out, they are all video games that I have never fucking heard of.
Yes. We try to play stuff no one's ever played before.
Zach, tell Zach what you guys play, because I want to see if he's heard.
We're playing the 2005 Rockstar produced Warriors adaptation. So like if you've ever watched the movie Warriors, they made a video game about that.
Yeah.
So we're playing that presently.
Joe,
prior to that we played.
Heard that?
Yeah, no, Joe. Well, Joe doesn't play video games, so you kind of have to be.
Joe
gentle
plays
with him.
Railroader.
That's it.
But no, tell him about some of the other ones. Nobody's heard of We Happy.
We played We Happy Few, which a lot of people have heard of actually, but a lot of people did not finish. DJ and Ellie I met through actually the We Happy Few like Reddit, because we were all like, man, this place is a freak show. I don't respect literally any of you people. And so we broke off and made our own Discord. And that's how we all sort of became friends. Actually, I met DJ prior to that, but that's when we really started connecting as like over this one particular video game. So we played through the entirety of We Happy Few, which if you never finished the first act, which most people haven't, you can check us out playing Sally and Ollie's act and the DLC. We played Contrast, which is also by the same studio. We played Vigilante 8, which we had Joe on for. So if you like Joe, check out our Vigilante 8 playthrough. That was a blast.
That was the most unstructured I've ever been in my life, I think.
It was basically just a Discord call, which we recorded.
Yes, it was.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
You should come back.
I figured you'd thrive in unstructured. I thought you liked the chaos.
I do.
He does.
I just thought about it afterwards, like, oh my god, imagine somebody listening to this.
Imagine somebody listening to this.
Yeah.
This is a structure.
So this is structure, and if you this is Joe's idea of structure, and if you want more unstructured, if you want absolute chaos, you can check out his episode that we did together on Low Art Lyceum on YouTube. And I'm at No Mercy for Swine, one word, on everything that matters. So if you like my stuff, you can come check it out.
Is that a nascent social media site? Everything that matters.
That's when I get my venture capital. That's what I'm.
Nothing else matters, but that's Twitter.
That's Queen. That's a different song.
Yeah. But yeah, I think after, good God, how long has this been now? I think
3.5 hours.
3 hours and 25 minutes. That is about the end of this podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to and putting up with us. This is always a pleasure. It's fun having you on, Ray.
Oh yeah, this was great. Thank you
for joining us.
Of course.
So, I'm so glad we could talk about the most horrifying disaster that no one knows about, because I would like to point out that the header image on Wikipedia for it is someone's model of PCC. So no one knows about this accident, really.
This was so hard. I mean, I thought about putting in the only pictures I could find of some of these people, which were just their tombstones, because I couldn't find anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that everyone got to go on this journey down State Street with us. And then, yeah, I'm going to hit stop recording in just a second. And is there anything else anyone has to say?
No. No, other than, thank you for having me on.
I'm going to find this author's email address and send him a letter and just say, what the fuck, dude? You could have given us a warning what was on the other side.
I would just send him an email.
Give us a warning on page 37 of what's on page 38.
At least he wrote something. It seems like there's not a whole lot of material, literary.
The rest of the book is fantastic.
This guy pounded the fucking pavement. Like
he really must have.
All his sources are like, I interviewed this person. This is,
and if they're dead, I interviewed their kids.
Yeah. It's an incredible piece of work. You should go read it. I'm going to put the Amazon link to it. I think somebody better remind me to put the Amazon link to it. It's about $8 for the Kindle book. So, and it's good reading. I finished it in a night. It's about 170 pages.
Oh, that's totally doable.
So
I'll check it out.
So yeah, thank you very much everyone for listening, and we will talk to you guys next time about an accident we haven't figured out yet.
Eventually.
Sounds good.
We plan these about 2 weeks in advance most of the time. This is how we work. All right, I'm stopping this now.
Bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.
Bye.